I'd like to welcome everyone to the special board meeting of the Frankfurt Plan Board. This is actually our regular Monday meeting, but because of our coverage of the primary election, we felt it would be better on staff not to hinder them too much. So we're having the meeting a day early, and I appreciate everyone's indulgence. And I would ask the secretary to call the roll.
Member DeLong?
Here.
Member Cubine?
Here.
Member Mason?
Here.
Member Snyder?
Here.
Member Dutton Mitchell? Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Proceed to do business. First item on the agenda are the action items. First, I'd like to consider approval of the minutes for the April 21st regular board meeting. All the members that is in your packet, and I would accept any additions, deletions, or corrections. And if there are none, I'd accept the motion on the minutes.
So we accept the motion for the minutes.
Okay, and motion by Mr. Cubine, second by Mr. Mason. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the consideration of the approval of minutes for the April 27th, 2026 special board meeting, which are also in your packet as well. Same procedure. Any issues? If not, I'll accept a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Member Dutton Mitchell,
Second.
second by Mr. Cubine. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is accepting the financials. Mr. Denton?
Yes,
Is that
good
a single
evening.
thing, Mr. Snyder?
Yes.
Other than the state budget, the greatest document. This is good stuff, buddy.
I'm glad you like it.
Yeah.
Well, good evening. What I have before you tonight is the financials on and through April 30th, 2026. So this is 10 months through our fiscal year. Just to go through real quick of what's in your board packet, we have for you tonight the statement of net position, cash and investment schedules, your loan schedules, statement of cash flows, statement of revenue expense and change in net position for all three major divisions and all of the admin departments. We have a list of the fixed asset sales dispositions of the year, cash activity summary for all bank accounts, and then check registers for our two most active checking accounts. So all kinds of good information on pages 21 through 99. I'd like just to focus on the financial performance through the first 10 months. If you were to replay what I report from last month, there's not been a lot of substantially change as far as the statement of net position. So looking at page 26, statement of revenues, expense, and change in net position, you'll see total operating revenue of just over $91 million against total operating expenses of $61.7. Then we have our total general and operating expenses of $24 million and other revenue, 5.4, bringing total change in net position to 10.6. So that's an increase of 2.7% on total revenue, and that sounds good, but we've also are outpacing that a little bit. Total expenses are up 3.87%. So expenses are outpacing revenue by about $642,000 this year. Most of that increase that we're seeing in expenses, about almost I said approximately 4%. Wholesale power, our overhead line expense for electric, health insurance, and then depreciation expense being driven by all the capital investment accounts for about 85% of that variance. That's a really quick summary of where we are for the first 10 months. I'd like to give you a quick update on where we are with the new auditors. I think some of you might have received calls from them this last week or two for fraud interviews. Sherry Beckert has been going through interim procedures with us the last couple of weeks, and that's going well. And as Mr. Cubine mentioned, we have before you tonight the fiscal year 27 budget and financial plan with a little supplemental document to help explain it. So I believe we have one meeting set Wednesday to cover the electric division, and we'd be happy to meet with any other board members on any other sections you'd like before the public meetings.
Okay. Are there any questions? If not, I'll accept a motion to accept the financials.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Mason, second by Ms. Dutton Mitchell. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item up on the agenda are two public hearings, and I will turn it over to my vice chair, Mr. Cubine.
And I will say this, Mr. Snyder, I never had an appreciation for what you had done as vice chair. Cool.
Well, the good thing is when we do back-to-back we don't have to read all the other stuff. Just say what it's about on the second one, so.
Okay, this is to conduct a public hearing on an increase in existing electric rates of 3.90%, adoption of a large load tariff, and revisions to contract development refunds. The hearing will come to order. My name is John Cubine. I've been requested by the board to conduct this hearing. With me today are board members and staff of the Frankfurt Electric and Water Plant Board. We are here to receive comments regarding an increase in existing rates of 3.90%, adoption of large load tariff, and revisions to contract development funds. The public hearing was advertised in accordance with regulations for public notification, appeared in the weekend May 9th through 10th, 2026 edition of the State Journal. To conduct this hearing in an organized fashion, we have asked that anyone wishing to comment register via email with Kathy Poe at kpoe@fewpb.com. The hearing will be conducted informally and voluntarily by the Frankfurt Electric Water Plant Board. In order to accept comments on the above item, both oral and written comments will be accepted. Any and all persons present who wish to make a statement will be afforded an opportunity to do so. If you have a written statement to accompany your oral presentation, a copy of the written statement should be provided to the board prior to your presentation. Oral presentation should be limited to no more than 3 minutes. If necessary, I will interrupt and request the presentation to be completed due to this time limit. I may ask questions of any person presenting oral comments where it is necessary to clarify the nature or substance of the comments. The board reserves the right to answer questions at a later date. It is the job of the board to fairly consider various viewpoints of view and information. We want the public input and involvement, and I hope you do not find our standard procedures restrictive. Additional comments, written comments will be accepted and considered if they are submitted no later than the end of normal business hours on Monday, June 15th, 2026. To submit a comment, please contact the FPB at 352-4372 or on our website, www.fpb.cc. Before we open the floor for comments, Travis McClure will provide a summary of the details. Travis?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Cubine. So if you recall at the regular April meeting, we had the first discussion on a proposed electric rate increase. The proposed rate increase is 3.9% for the system average. The reason behind that, again, we kind of discussed this more in detail in April, but we're facing increased costs for next fiscal year from our wholesale provider, KYMEA. That expected increase is about $2.35 million for the electric department next year. And again, so the basis of the 3.9%, kind of how did we get to that figure? If you'll recall, back in 2023, the plant board went through a comprehensive cost of service study. That study was performed by 1898 and Company, and they proposed at that time 2 electric rate increases. One was enacted July of 2023. The proposed 2024 rate increase was deferred until now, which we're requesting again. Essentially, we were able to defer those increases for various reasons. You know, our costs were doing well, revenue was doing pretty well. We weren't seeing quite as high of inflationary pressure that we had expected on the wholesale side. So again, originally proposed for 2024, we've delayed it until now. The reason we're requesting it now is, again, due to the expected increases from our wholesale provider. So just to kind of add a little bit more color to that, again, it's a 3.9% system average increase. That's going to vary by customer class, so residential, commercial, industrial. Their increases will all vary, and that, again, all goes back to the 2023 cost of service study. The plan was laid out then to get each customer class up to their appropriate cost level. So 3.9% system average increase for a residential customer. The target increase is about 5.85%, which for an average residential customer, and David, can you bring that slide up? While he's getting that up, for an average residential customer, that's going to be about a $7 increase a month on their electric bill.
Is this the comparison chart?
Yeah, I've got a comparison chart. He's got it there for me. Okay, thanks, Dave. One of the things we noted at the April meeting, you know, despite this rate increase, which you know we feel is due to cost pressures outside of our control, we're still going to be very competitive with all the other local providers. So with our proposed increase, our expected true cost per kWh. So when I say true cost, I mean, I'm factoring in the fixed charge and the energy charge. So that's not just your, you know, if you look at a tariff, you'll have just a kWh rate, but if you factor in the customer cost and you look at an average customer, which we're saying is 1,200 kilowatt hours a month. Some utilities may do that a little differently. You'll see 1,000 or maybe a little higher number, but we've always kind of said 1,200 kilowatt hours for our system is about average. So if you take that 1,200 kilowatt hour customer, the proposed rate, their new bill will be about $138. That's up from the current rate of $131. But again, if you look at kind of our competitors, we pulled KU, OMU, which is kind of similar size, Muni, Bluegrass Energy, which also borders us, Paducah Power. Paducah Power is another Muni, but they're kind of at the higher end of the range. Again, we're still going to be very competitive. I've also noted, you may see in your board package an older slide. If you do, this one has more up-to-date information. But you know, not only are we still very competitive with these other
And by
local
competitive, you
providers,
mean we're lower.
we're lower.
Yes.
Yes. And I want to add a little bit more detail to that. If you pull up, I don't want to pick on anybody in particular. If you pull up KU's tariff, you will see a different rate than that 12.79 that I've calculated. With a investor-owned or many of the co-ops, you have to factor in all their riders. So we derive that number from an actual KU bill. Same with Bluegrass Energy. We took an actual Bluegrass Energy bill, pulled out all the rates, plugged that 1,200 kilowatt hours back in. So we, you know, feel pretty confident that this is an accurate representation of where they're at. Again, a lot of times those tariff rates don't include a fuel adjustment. They don't include a environmental cost adjustment, which with these other providers you do have to pay. So that's kind of how we got to those numbers. Owensboro, that was publicly advertised. They're at about 13.4 cents. They see that number going up according to kind of the local news articles there the next few months. KU had asked for more, so they had asked for higher than that 12.7 that we came up with. Bluegrass, their wholesale provider, has kind of signaled some increases coming. So it's kind of everybody is in this position, same position we are. Costs are going up. They're trying to adapt. Still, all things considered, we're performing very well compared to them. We're lower than them, again, for this average residential customer. Any other kind of questions or details on the rate increase? I did want to touch on kind of the other two items in the tariff changes.
Well,
But
I might just add,
Yep.
and anybody else on the board wants to, I mean, this is a tough time. I mean, people are paying more at the pump. There's other inflationary costs that are hitting people.
Right.
And I know I've read, and I'm sure the board has too, I mean, there's a large number of comments on Facebook and everything else, and people are upset, and rightfully so.
Sure.
I mean, it's hitting them in the pocketbook, and they've got to pay it. And I think the only thing we can really explain is what we're proposing is to cover costs that we're going to have to pay, because we buy, what, David, about 60+ million a year in electricity?
About 50.
That we have to pay for, and we're going to get a bill for that, and we have to pay it. And I think a lot of people have the perception that we are charging this and we're going to keep the money and we're just doing it to make more money. And we're going to charge the money if that's the result of the hearing and after comments and we meet on it again. But if we end up charging it, we'll just turn right around and pass it back to the providers and pay for the electricity. The money won't, it's a pass-through. And ironically, the next item on the public hearing is about cable rates. Same thing is true there. You know, we collect the money, we pay for the services, we pay for the channels, and we just send it right back out. We don't keep the money. We try to keep the channels people want. We know people want reliable electricity, and we've been very fortunate to have electricity. It's on. Our crews are unbelievable getting power back on during storms, and the power is there, and it's there 24/7. But if anybody reads it, recently there was an AI data center being built in Utah. The one data center is going to pull over double the amount of power the whole state of Utah uses. I mean, what's going on in the energy market is incredible, and we're just one piece of it. Unfortunately, we're at the back end, and you pay what the rate is or you don't get the electricity. So I didn't mean to interrupt, but you said, I just think I know people are upset, and we're really powerless to change it. We're in the middle of bidding for a new power source in 2029. But this is where the market is, and at least it's going to be there for a while, so I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, no, all great points, and kind of to expand on that a little bit. Obviously, you know, the data center issue has not really arisen here locally, but we are competing with all those big companies for resources, power supply resources, and they have very deep pockets. Not just power supply, but transformers, lines, poles, transmission lines, everything. We're competing with them, and it's just a very different market.
Well, that new data center they're building in Jefferson County in Louisville uses 2.5 times the power the whole city of Frankfort uses.
All right. Yeah.
For one data center in one part of Jefferson County, and it's using 400 megawatts.
Yep. Yeah, that's
I mean-
more than double us. So yeah. And
Yeah.
again, the market's very difficult right now. We're going to obviously kind of touch on that a little more later. And on the timing issue, I think, you know, Gary and Kathy and I have kind of talked about this a little bit as well. If any of those kind of market projections looked like this was a temporary increase, we could maybe think about, you know, the timing a little bit further. But there's nothing in those market projections that make any of us think the price is going to come down on the wholesale side. So, you know, we would kind of be delaying the inevitable, and completely understand your comment and the comments we've received about timing. Everything is expensive right now.
And we've read every one of them. I mean, every comment out there on Facebook, we've seen it and read it, and I mean, they're good points. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just, there's no recourse, it doesn't appear, to Tellon Energy generators that actually produce it, whether it's coal, natural gas, whatever. They don't have to sell us power cheaper.
Right.
They price it, and you either take it or leave it. It's not, oh, you've got to come down or else.
Right.
There is no else. It's what they want for their power.
Yeah, they're not hurting for business. Yep.
No, and they're not going to take less.
Sure.
And I saw in the paper last week, wasn't it, Gary, in Hancock County, that old Century aluminum plant, they're turning it into a data center. And it's going to be a huge power in that county. And it's, you know, a power plant, a big factory that shut down, and now they're going to try to turn it into a data center. So
Right.
it's out there. Go on, Travis.
Yeah, no problem. If there weren't any other questions or comments on that, I think that's a good segue into the data center tariff proposal. So you remember last meeting, Craig was here, did the presentation on the study that 1898 and Company performed for us. Just kind of, I'll be very brief, long story short, if you will. Their recommendation is set a tariff rate to cover any use of our facilities. So most likely it would be use of our 69 kV subtransmission system. There'd be a wheeling charge, there is a rate proposed, and the proposed tariff for that. And then power supply is gonna be a pass-through. Whatever the power supply cost is, they pay that. They don't get a regular tariff rate. And there was a few reasons for that. They are, number one, they're such large consumers. You've noted a few. It's too much risk for us to try and take on setting one fixed tariff rate and saying, okay, that's going to cover your power supply costs. They need to bear all that entirely. The other reason it being, you know, we're kind of on a short time frame to change power supply providers in terms of, you know, a customer engagement like that. So, you know, come 2020, 29, new power supply, we may have a discussion about changing the structure, but for now, that's the proposal. So there would be a customer charge of $750, a pass-through again on the power supply, a delivery charge for transmission $2, a delivery charge for primary, so that's if you're using 69 kV or 13.8 kV, $6 for primary, and then a delivery energy charge of 0.9 cents per kilowatt hour. So essentially, there's just a fee to kind of wheel from point A to point B across our system, and the power supply is going to be a pass-through. The reason kind of behind that is, you know, obviously, like you pointed out, the data center discussion is much, much bigger than FPB. You know, our thought behind it was, if this were to come to Frankfurt, we need to kind of be prepared and do our due diligence up front. Number one, to protect our existing ratepayers. That's what a big, you know, most of the data center conversation is about. How do we protect our existing ratepayers? So on top of that, those proposed rates, Craig also recommended a fixed load ramp schedule. So, you know, you go 5 megawatt steps at a time, or, you know, you kind of negotiate it out. Minimum contract terms, a minimum billing demand. So if they say they need 50 megawatts, then by contract, they will pay that whether they use it or not. They'll pay for those 50 megawatts or some percentage therein. An exit fee structure, collateral requirements, and minimum bill requirements. So again, those are all things we're trying to lay the groundwork for to make sure we're, you know, again, protecting our existing ratepayers and prepared for, you know, whatever may come for us. So any questions on kind of what we propose for the data center tariff or rates there? Okay, and then the last one, this was actually a few months ago. We discussed it first. We delayed the public hearing so we could kind of do it all at once, but was the developer refund policy. So this has been kind of on the books for a few years now. If a developer comes to Frankfurt, they're doing multi-lot, say they're doing a subdivision with 80 homes, they pay the full advance costs up front. As they fill those homes up, they get a portion refunded to them. So that's the policy. It's been in place for a while now. What we're asking for in terms of this revision, we had always asked for a certificate of occupancy prior to a refund. A developer has reached out. That's apparently become a pretty cumbersome process. From what we understand, there's a requirement to do an open records request to receive those. Because we have all the information necessary to kind of validate whether or not they, have electric service, we're asking the board to remove that requirement from the tariff. So I think that will be well received. It's an economic incentive. We're trying to get people to build here. So just, again, the idea was trying to make that policy a little less cumbersome.
So all we'll do is make sure that we have an FPB customer there getting electric, and that's enough to satisfy the issue, correct?
Yes, I think that focuses on our main concern. Is there somebody there that can receive electric service to pay an electric bill?
Good.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And if there are no other questions, Mr. Chairman and Vice Chairman, I think that concludes my.
Any other board members have any questions during the hearing? Kathy, do we have people signed up to speak?
We do. I have 4 people listed here.
Okay.
And we also have 1 email comment that I circulated.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've got it.
Before we take the people here, if you would, I'd like to ask, if you don't mind, Ms. Poe, the written comment that everybody saw is from Ms. Cloyd, and she submitted a written comment, said she would not be able to be here tonight. And could you read that into the record?
Yes. She states that we are against any raising rates of any kind. Retirees haven't received a raise since July 2011. Social Security increased, but the raise in insurance coverage took that raise. I know you all say rates are low, comparable to others, but you serve Kentucky, not other states. Have you researched the poverty level in our state? The middle class can't donate or help others because there is no middle class any longer. Our citizens can't afford anything else. Thank you. And she signed it along with 4 other family members.
Okay, good. So that's in the record?
Yes.
Okay. Who do we have signed up to speak?
First, we have Miss Anna Marie Pavlik-Rosen.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
How you doing? How you been?
Good.
Good to see you.
We have solar almost, well, we've been working on solar for 5 months, and tomorrow maybe it'll be hooked up.
Good.
So that looks
Good.
good. We will. Trying to keep up with the weeds in the garden, so general things.
It may be effective.
There we go.
Oh, that sounds better.
Mhm.
So I want to thank you for having this meeting, and I want to thank you, Travis and staff, for working on what you can do to keep the rates as low and consistent as possible. We have a difficult situation. The current administration has stopped the power infrastructure that would have brought wind power, which is less expensive than gas or solar, to us, which I think is a backwards position. And that is something that maybe could help us with keeping rates stable in the future, since it's not affected by political choice and war. I think that we are at a tactical position for our customers to look at how they're using electricity and where they could reduce. And the one area that I think is important is night lighting and how it's affecting the environment. But doing an energy audit, trying to find ways to use energy more effectively and reduce consumption would help with the energy bill. And that involves energy audits, buying new equipment, doing insulation, things like that. But there's something that people could do simply, immediately, which is turn off lights outdoor lighting between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. in the morning. No one is there to admire the steeple on the church or your yard in the middle of the night. And what is it benefiting? No people, and it's actually detrimental to birds. Now, I know Betty Barr was here a few weeks ago and gave a presentation on how critical that is for migratory birds, and we're in migration right now. And what happens is that birds migrate, 85% of them that migrate at night because there's less turbulence in the air, protection from predators, and that they navigate by the stars, which they're confused by all these lights that we put out. So that would be something simple that people could do. And it would be a cost savings to them. It's not anything that's benefiting them. Considering raising the thermostat in the summer and lowering it in the winter would be things that could help. So protecting other animals and plants. It's interesting that the legislature passed House Bill 571 just recently, which protects soybeans from extra light. And what that extra light is doing is causing the plant to grow and not produce more beans, which is what you want for animal feed, but it's causing the plant to grow excessively, and it's costing us money to have the light there, and then it's wrecking the crop. So it's probably affecting other plants as well. So turning off lights. One other thing that I thought of, which is the lightning bug. Firefly season is about to start, and they're just the males that fly around with the light, attracting females, and once they go through that process, after about 6 weeks, they go back in the ground. So they only have a short window of time, and they would benefit from not having so much light as well. So
If you could.
wrap it up?
We have a
Okay.
loose 3-minute, but if you
Okay.
could kind of wrap up.
Well,
yeah.
I have 3 requests.
Okay,
First, if the plant board could consider its light usage, like the lighting here at the center, those lights that are on all night, no one is able to see them. Either dim them or turn them off in the middle of the night. And also, when the actual rate increase goes in, if you could communicate to customers that there are things they could do to lower their energy usage. And one thing is the simple turning off lights. I think I've seen some neighbors that have lights on inside their house all night. Why? I'm sure they aren't awake. So just to think about energy usage and encourage people to conserve and turn off lights. So those are my key points, and I hope you can help.
thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
You know, when other lady was it Miss Barrow was her name?
Betty Barr.
Barr, yeah. When she came, we, as a result of that, we reduced lighting at FPB
Okay.
and turned a lot of the lights off at night that Travis worked on. And then Travis
Thank you.
did a report for her and gave it to her for the whole community for her to use. And our understanding was she was gonna take that and approach fiscal court and the city on the results and that usage. So we provided that to her when she came. We followed up and Travis did that report for her.
Okay, I'll ask Betty about that.
Yeah, she's got that, so.
And
And Travis,
that's a
if
good
you could
point.
send Ms. Rosen a copy of that, because it's public record. I mean, it was,
Okay,
we're not
thank you.
providing any customer data. We just provide them some
Right.
information, because she talked about the impact on birds and so forth. So we've done some of those things already.
Okay, and
Yeah.
I know that Scott Hankla and Betty went to the state and talked to they have a commission working on trying to reduce their
Yeah.
energy costs, and talked to them on lighting, specifically at the transportation building, which is always lit up. And I
Yeah.
guess they have decreased it a little bit, but they have to replace some equipment so that they can just turn lights
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, Travis made quite a few changes around here in our other buildings to reduce our energy after she came, so.
Okay,
Yes,
very good, thank you.
Thank you.
And-
Yeah, another thing we were looking at was like a lower temperature light, right? So-
yes.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
warmer lights are better for.
Yeah, as they burn out,
nightlife.
it was extremely expensive to replace them all at one time,
Right.
but as they go bad, then we're looking at making those changes, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
And I think on street lighting, it would be helpful if it was
turn down.
shielded.
Yes.
So that it's down where people need it, we don't need it going up. So doing some of those things and thinking in that term is very good, and thank you. And possibly when the rate increase goes in, to remind people that you are doing these things and that they could contribute as well.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who's next, Ms. Poe?
Next, we have Charles Boone.
Yes, my name is Charles Boone.
How you doing,
I'm
sir?
just doing pretty good. I'm just a common person here in Frankfurt. I'm a retired person from a utility. I worked for the city of Frankfurt for about 22 years. I'm pretty basic about what I use. I use the cable, and I've got the electric and the water, and my basic bill runs about $250. I think it's $250 a month. And I'm trying to ascertain all these information to understand how come we're getting these raises, and to figure out what I've got to do here. It's because it seems like everything's getting high, and it's coming from every direction. And then I'm asking myself, well, how long is this going to continue? You know, is this going to be a constant thing? Because I've come once before to discuss about the cable, and I could see that when I talked about the cable, that nothing really got done. It seems like to me that the increase continued on, so there was really no difference in me actually showing up and talking. So I don't really know that I'm going to make much difference tonight, but you know, it's just a lot of people here are retired employees in Frankfurt, and the KRS people like myself, I'm CERS through the retirement system, and I don't know, are your people CERS people here?
Yes.
Okay. Well, if you know that the CERS hasn't given any raises for a long time.
Steve and I are KRS, and we're in the same boat you are
Yeah.
in, so
So
KRS hadn't
just-
either, so.
You don't get these raises.
Yeah.
So you have to stop and plan and look, and I'm about as low as I can go. I use about 700 gallons of water a month. I use about 300 to 400 kilowatts a month, and during the summer it goes up to about 1,200. And then it's back down during the winter time. So I'm just trying to make some kind of sense of what's going on here, to look in the future to decide whether or not I want to live in Frankfurt anymore. You know, I become to think that I like to go out and go get me someplace in the country and get me some solar energy and deal with things differently. I would like not to, but it seems like to me that that might be the only direction to go. But other than that, I don't think there's anything else that I guess I can say, because I don't really know the structure. This gentleman here was talking about how the bills was and how expensive it was, and the shortcomings. But you know, you have to look at things, and you got to be efficient when you're in, you know, when you're in utility. You got to be efficient. So it's, you know, I don't know who does y'all's efficiency test, or even if you have one. I don't have any idea. But we used to, down where I worked, they used to come in and they used to do efficiency, make sure everything was done as well as possible, and as efficient as possible, as quickly as possible, so that the costs stayed low. But other than that, I guess that's everything I got to say.
Any questions from you?
I think
Go ahead.
it's cool that, thank you for coming back. But it's good that you mentioned cable, because I think cable and electricity actually have a very similar dynamic to this price increase, which is, let you guys, I'll explain very briefly, and then Travis can explain more in depth. But basically, we purchase the electricity from a wholesale market outside of our community and regionally through KYMEA, and they purchase it further out. So we have national and regional effects that are driving prices up, and it gets, as we bring the electricity into the community, we're kind of bringing that cost in with it, but that's what we're tied to under contract. Cable's the same way. I think we've had a lot of charts that show that anytime we raise cable, that's money just going straight up to those national providers. We're not making a profit on it at all. So we're being as efficient as we possibly can, and Travis mentioned that we've delayed rates, and for years we've tried to move things around to be as efficient as we can for the community, but at the end of the day, when they're raising the prices outside the community, we have to pass that on along, because we're nonprofit. We have no ability to kind of absorb that. So I think the simple thing is cable and electricity. It is prices happening out in the national and regional market that get passed on to us, and we are now passing it on to our customers, but we've tried for as long as possible to buffer that. And Travis, to sum that up, okay?
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that.
I've got a question then. What about a solar farm? You've got solar panels up here. I know when you go towards on 64, you go to Winchester. And they've got all these panels out there, and I don't know what kilowatts is, but it's gotta be quite a bit. Why can't, you know, the plant board do something like that to offset the cost?
Yeah, I mean, I can touch on that a little bit, a few things. So if you go down a little further past us, you'll see one that just recently came back online. This one is about a 0.1 megawatt. We just energized a 1 megawatt. So that is growing, and, you know, admittedly, it's kind of a small portion of our system. Jason mentioned, you know, we're part of this joint action agency, KYMEA. KYMEA has an 80 megawatt solar facility that's part of their portfolio. So, yeah, I would say I think everybody's kind of trying to do those things. A big part of the driver on wholesale power is the demand or capacity component. So it's challenging to do it all with solar, right? You know, to cover those off solar hours, those prices kind of keep going up and up and up to match, you know, more solar. So again, you know, it's all fair points, and I think the plant board should kind of continue to look for the lowest cost provider at every opportunity.
And we'd be glad to talk to you, you know, later, Mr. Boone, if you want to, but, you know, we have hydro. We're part of an 80 megawatt, which is a pretty good sized facility in western Kentucky that Travis mentioned. And we looked and looked and looked for sites here in Frankfort that we could build a bigger solar. But people, one, had to be willing to sell their land, and as you know, you've seen those fights around the country. People with prime farmland don't want to sell. So it's got to be the right land. Nobody wants us to go in and cut down all the trees.
Yeah.
So you get into, like Travis said, adding solar, and even when you add solar for nights, cloudy days, you still have to have the other power, and you're still caught in that same market. And when you talk about cable, which we'll talk about next, we offer a package now with no sports, which is a lot cheaper. But people want the sports channels, and the sports channels know people want the sports channels, so they charge for them, and that's what we have to pay. But when we survey our customers, they keep telling us, we want the sports channels. Well, if the sports channels are going up and customers want them, I mean, that's what it gets into. It's tough, but I appreciate exactly what you're saying, because it's, and what Jason said is true. On both electric and cable, you're basically at the mercy of the market. And it's what they're willing to sell the power for. And right now, it's tough, and it's going to be tough for a while, it looks like, if you look at the national predictions, but who knows? I mean.
Okay, is there a time limit on keeping the cable here, or is it gonna all go to internet?
I mean, as long as people want to buy it, we still offer a landline telephone service, because
Well,
we have a small number of people who want that, and we keep providing it. It's not a moneymaker. We provide the service. It's a good value, and a lot of people want that service, but it's a declining market too, but we'll keep providing that as long as we possibly can, because that's what people want. Some people, most people go on to cell phones, but there's a lot of landlines left, so.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
thank you all.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Next.
And next we have Tom Boone. Okay.
No comments?
No comments.
Okay, and who's the,
And then we have Kelsey and Ken Sawicki.
yes.
Yes.
Sorry.
Does
for
she
my
have,
kid.
does she have some comments too, or?
Yeah, they have quite a few comments. So I guess my first comment is, like, I just moved to Frankfort here last summer. We've lived all over the country. I have to tell you, your electric rates are pretty high. They've definitely been the highest that I've paid anywhere. I'm also curious, you mentioned specifically that they're anticipated like increases. And I'm curious, so where are you getting that anticipation from? Is that is that solidified? When are those taking effect? The anticipated from your supplier?
I think I can answer that.
Yeah.
Nothing solidified, to answer your question. They have given us projections for next year.
Okay.
They are projecting another increase. There is a lot to still be determined. That won't happen Nothing for sure will happen until, probably February, March next year. They're kind of like the plant board, it's a 1-year approval. But that's kind of what they're signaling. And then kind of to expand on that a little bit, it's just, kind of looking at the broader market as well. Any kind of forward market projections, they're all up. So that's.
And we're in
So
the
if
process now of, our current energy provider, we're changing in 2029. You have to give a 5-year notice to change.
Right, but
And the
if these
reason-
are anticipated rates, then they haven't taken effect, then you're passing them on to the citizens of
The rates-
Frankfurt
the rates
without
would-
actually being sure that they're increasing.
No, the
So
rates
when
for,
you
the rates
talk
for
about
this
the-
July are actually gonna happen. We've got notice they will go up in July.
Well, he just said he.
No, he's
that
talking about
they
future
don't.
rates.
You
Yeah,
asked
about
about
future.
future rates.
Right.
So that's what I'm asking, is the anticipated rates that you mentioned, the anticipated rate increase from your supplier, is that anticipated or is that solidified? That's what I'm trying to
The rate
determine.
we're talking about tonight is a fact.
Okay,
We've
that's
got
all I was
notice
trying to
they're
figure
gonna
out,
change,
then
but-
that's solidified.
But beyond this year,
We think it's gonna
continue to go up in the near
Okay.
future.
But to be
So is
clear,
the-
our rates aren't in anticipation of those costs. They're
No.
of
Okay.
Of the ones we've
actual
already
costs.
got.
That's what I
Right.
was trying to get
Yes,
to the bottom
yeah.
of, thank you.
Yes,
Yeah.
and there is a cost of service study from 2023. I don't know that you were already here.
Yeah.
But it's available online if you kind of look.
Okay,
So a rate increase, was justified, in 2024, and we've put it off. But with this increase that is happening, in a month or so,
July 1st.
July 1st.
that bill's coming due now.
Right.
But, so I don't want you to think we're like upping it even more because we think something's gonna happen in a year.
Right.
No, this is to cover what is actually happening.
okay, thank you for
Yes.
clarifying that.
And the reason I was talking before is, we've got the bids in now that we can't, because companies have bid for the future.
Right,
And we're looking at what the world looks like in 2029, real,
yeah. I
from
work for
multiple
Amazon.
vendors.
I understand the global
And
component.
and none of them are saying it's gonna be cheaper.
Yeah.
They're all saying this is what we want. Some are
Well,
much, much cheaper than others.
Everybody is raising their rates, right?
Yes.
Everything is going up, but also that means that we do have a responsibility to lower our cost to serve.
Mhm.
So what are you doing to lower your cost to serve?
There are a lot of things we try from inside out, right? Number one, the largest cost we have is a $50 million purchase power from outside.
Okay.
So that's what we're looking for the future. We change the provider. I'm confident the board will approve that. That's give us a better option, lower cost option by 2029. But our contract cannot change until by June 1st, 2029. The second part, I'm really curious, you comment about the electrical rate, right? Because we have a lot of data. We know what's the national average. Not only we
I
know
lived in
that.
Washington State, right outside Seattle, and I paid less for
Okay.
electric.
That's what I was gonna ask. Where else did you, I don't mean to be
I
personal.
lived in Michigan, I lived
Okay.
in Ann Arbor, I lived in Saginaw, I've lived a lot of different places. I'm happy to give you a list if you'd like.
No.
We will definitely have interest in that, but we know we have the lowest rate in Kentucky.
Well, you might have the lowest rate in Kentucky, but I do think that the first commenter had a really excellent
Mm-hmm.
point, that we do live in the state of Kentucky,
Yes.
and the minimum wage is $7.25 an hour.
Mhm.
We do need to make it so people can afford to
And
buy
that's the minimum,
groceries.
that's the federal minimum wage nationwide.
It is.
Yes.
I understand that, but I'm telling you that in Seattle, it's, what, $20 an hour or something ridiculous? Now, of course, we're not gonna have a $20 minimum wage, but when you have an electric bill that's cheaper and you're being paid $20 an hour, it's very different than when you're making $7.25 an hour and your electric bill is higher. And so that's all that I'm trying to say.
And we do look at, in fact, tonight, as Mr. Denton said, he passed out the draft, and that'll be available for the public to look at. And we do look closely at salaries and health insurance and equipment cost, and we bid things and trucks, fuel, and all those things. And, we try to be competitive because we need quality linemen, quality people working on the water, on the telecom, and we
course.
compete in that market with other utilities and what they're paying.
So are the linemen getting raises?
This budget proposes a raise
Okay.
comparable to what the city, the county, the school systems are
That's
getting. We don't know if, because the utilities around us aren't public. For example, KU, we don't know what
Right.
they're giving their employees. But we know if we don't stay competitive, we lose those employees. And nobody wants us to say in the middle of the night, we can't get your power on, because we don't have anybody.
Right.
It's a tough market, but we appreciate, I mean, health insurance costs are going up. But we do bid everything, parts, supplies, trucks, to try to be as efficient as possible, but it's a tough market, really is. But we will definitely look at these other cities, because
Yeah.
we've tried to be very efficient in our money. Like, for example, in telecom, our basic telecom rates, just our rate, not what we pass through to the big market suppliers, hadn't really changed since 2012.
To be honest with you, I'm not concerned about cable.
Well, but
I'm
we have a
only
lot.
concerned with electric.
Well, but we have a lot of people that they're concerned about water, electric,
But,
I mean,
yeah.
everything. So we try, since we've got three parts of business here, we try to look at everything.
I
And
understand.
one part of the company doesn't subsidize another part. Electric isn't subsidizing cable or vice versa. They all stand alone.
Okay.
But we welcome, I mean, and seriously, you need to take a look at our budget, and if you have any questions,
Yeah.
because nobody is perfect, and anybody can always improve, and we try to improve, because what we always say is, you're concerned about your rates, but our employees are ratepayers too. They live here also, and they don't want to pay higher rates.
Right.
So it's,
The truth is, our one biggest concern with the reason we've been hold the rate, not follow the recommendation for a consultant in the past. If you look at last 10 years, how many rate increase? We have comparably, we hold back because the concern the board had for our low income, fixed income people. And I think overall business, we are different than the either investor-owned utility or the private company. It's the open book. It's the every line item in the budget is to the public, to the dollar cents. Without this, we're not going to have any expense at all. So it's almost like open book to the general public. I think that's a very unique part of the business. Even it's $100 million business dollar, but reality is you can tie into every penny. How do we spend the money? Why we spend it? We have a year's record where we spend it, why. I think it's very critically important to us. You think if we don't, all the employee can correct me. I'm the general manager, but we look at the cost increase every part of budget item very, very seriously. We have a multiple line we're discussing every year to looking for, David is our CPA, the CFO, he's looking for that very seriously, very carefully. How do we maintain the cost? I understand you have a concern electricity, definitely, but there's a many ways we can have a communication with you to say how do you can save energy from your side, potentially from we have an energy efficient program. Actually, we don't have even.
I have solar panels.
You have solar panels?
Yeah, I have the solar panels.
If you have a solar panel, you will know we are still left. Maybe the only company I know, Kentucky, maybe only company in the country left, still honor 1-to-1 to the solar.
Yes,
The
so
best
my
solar
solar
energy
don't
you-
work all completely either.
Okay,
So you
okay.
charge me a higher rate because I have solar and my solar doesn't work.
But we
But
don't
that's a
charge-
whole other issue.
Well, no,
That's
seriously.
not your fault, that's my solar's fault.
yeah, I mean, like I
So-
said, we don't charge a higher rate if you've got, I mean,
I
if
think
you,
there's
that's
two
true.
different rates posted on the website list.
You talk
But-
about time date rate
Yeah.
you have.
Is that what it is? It's because
You
I
have to-
thought
you
there was
have to-
one
you
rate
have to
for
opt
solar
in.
panels and one
Yeah.
rate for
No,
non.
that,
No.
we have a time of use, so if you have
Okay.
solar, you can opt in to doing a peak or off-peak, but you have to opt into that.
Yeah,
Oh, they didn't, okay.
but we'll be
I
glad
will
to look
figure
into
that
that for
out.
you.
Thank you.
Sure.
I appreciate you guys holding this. I do think that 5 PM on a Monday is a wee bit challenging, so I excuse my appearance, but, all right, I'm gonna pass it over to my husband and I'm gonna pray.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, you just come on up to the podium.
I thank you all for actually having the opportunity for the public to come and comment on these things. Unfortunately, I didn't have the benefit or detriment possibly of hearing my wife's comments, and so please bear with me. Also, please forgive our punctuality or lack thereof.
No,
I work in
that's fine.
Georgetown, I get off at 4:30,
That's fine.
best I could do. Now, you mentioned that the mechanism behind these proposed rate hikes would be projected increases in your wholesaler costs. Is that correct?
She asked,
Okay,
and the rate we're talking about tonight, the public hearing,
yeah,
is a rate that we've actually got notice. That new charge from who sells us power will go into effect on July 1st. So that's not a projection, that's real.
okay. So
That one's
that's
gonna happen.
expected.
In the future,
Yeah,
we're anticipating, but for July 1st, 2026, it's real.
okay.
Yeah.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
So it's my understanding that this was expected for some period, at least since 2024, that this was going to happen, and we were able to defer this for
Or
some
absorb
period.
it.
2 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and how were we able to do that during that period?
In terms of,
Well, you had said that you had pushed off this increase in
Mhm.
rate for that period. How were you able to do that?
basically, David, if you want, or Travis, the rates that we had into effect were set based on what we were told the rates were gonna be, and when we adjust the charges based on what we actually are being charged.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the cost did not actually increase during that period?
As much as what they had
As much
thought
as
at the
we
time.
thought it would.
Yeah,
Okay, so, thank you. That's helpful to know that there is some method of recompense against,
and you can see in our
Projection and
budget, you can see where the electric that we sell,
yeah,
which is on your bill, and how that money is spent, and how much we're billed for, and how much we remit to the generator who's providing the power.
yeah,
And then you see how much we're spending on the trucks, the linemen, the cable, where exactly the money went to the penny.
okay. So you guys are, and I think I heard you say a non-for-profit or not-for-profit?
Yes, we're a government agency, the same as a city or county. We're created by ordinance and by state law.
Okay,
So
That's
we have to
helpful for
comply
me
with
to-
open records, open meetings, ethics, annual audits, and everything that goes along that any other school system, city, county would have to comply with.
okay, thank you. That's helpful to know.
Sure.
As we move forward, obviously, everybody's already touched on the fact that people are in a bind.
Mhm.
It's a difficult time for people, and I think most of the people in this room are doing all right. And I hope it's not lost on anybody just how poor some people actually are. I work in healthcare, and it's very common for me to see people who tell me they can't buy their medication. It's not very expensive, and it precludes them from having a reasonable quality of life. And so while an expected $7 increase for the average consumer might not seem like much, it can be the difference between people's health and their unhealth.
Mhm.
And if we are to frame it from our perspective as not being that much, whereas for those people it is a great deal, then perhaps it may not be that much, we might not be able to absorb, to manage. I think we always have a moral obligation to look out for those who can't look out for themselves. And I'm not gonna take up much more of your time, but the Lord's really put on my heart a scripture from Isaiah, and it's 1:16. It says, "Wash yourselves, make yourselves clean, put away your evil deeds, stop doing wrong, learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow." And I know a lot of people in this county are good Christian folk. If that's you, I'd just like you to ask yourself if this is in line with that principle, and if there isn't more that you could do. That's all.
We appreciate both you and your wife taking time to come, and it's tough for us, because like you ask, and we are a public agency, and we have a variety of ratepayers. We have residential, we have retail customers that run the small restaurants, gift shops, we have the bigger factories. And we try to set the rates based on the cost of providing those services. And I think, and we struggle with it every time. Say we say the residential, those people living on fixed incomes, we want to do something for them, we're going to sell them power cheaper. But we're still going to be charged that money from the supplier.
Yeah.
So where do we put that charge? If we put it on businesses and they say, fine, we're going to lay off 100 people because your rates went up. Now we got 100 people unemployed.
Yeah.
So does everybody pay their share? And we have a program that pays for energy audits. We work with various community organizations to help people pay their bills in hardship. But it's hard because you see, and I worked in human resources for years.
Yeah.
And it's hard, and you see situations that you want to do something. Unfortunately, in an area like utilities, it's a zero-sum game. Who we're buying power from wants their money. They don't care where we get it, they just want their check. I understand that, they're providing a service, they've got workers, so then we have to decide what's the fairest way to charge customers for that, recognizing that there's people who have difficulty, and if we discount that, where do we put that cost? Because at the end of the day, it's gotta go somewhere. And I think your wife had mentioned that, electric and water is one thing, cable might be optional for some other people. But at the end of the day, everything's gotta be paid, and we're a nonprofit, so we don't have a profit that we can say we're only gonna give our shareholders half. We don't have any our shareholders, in fact, are the customers. That's the public. I mean, that's our only purpose to be here is to provide service. So I appreciate what you and your wife, and I know the board does too, have said. And I wish there was an answer to it. And this is happening nationwide. And it's hard to decide what to do when you have cost and people want that energy. And if you don't pay for it, you won't get it. So where do we put those charges? And I appreciate you and your wife coming because it's hard. It really is. And thank you.
Certainly. Before I leave
Sure.
the podium here, can you give me a ballpark of the number across residential customers of what the total value across a year would be?
No, wait now, I'm sorry.
After the increase in rates, what would that mean in a general net perspective, or not net, gross perspective, in terms of the increased cost for all residential consumers combined? Do you know
Travis, do you have the data on how many residential, or how many total customers and total revenue?
Yeah, we certainly could provide that for you. I don't know that I'd have it easily. I would just maybe, and this may not answer your question, but our anticipated wholesale increase that we're trying to offset here is about 2.3 million. Again, that has been approved. It's final. We know it's coming. The reason I say anticipated because it depends a lot on usage, just like anybody's electric bill. Our electric bill is the same. It depends on how much we consume. So anticipated about 2.3 million. Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, residential's maybe 40 to
37%
37%.
residential come to the revenue. The rest is commercial and the industrial. Go back, you look at it, in our business, we are more compared to per kilowatt cost because each home have a different pattern use energy. So to be fair, you say what's per unit cost, then you multiply how many units. After rate increase, we have a 11.54 cents per kilowatt hour. I just checked the city Seattle City Light, which is the largest provider. My wife mentioned that they are 14 cents. So when it says lower, I'm not sure. I think people use less energy now, maybe, but if you look at a per kilowatt hour cost, they are quite higher than ours. We are still variable, actually, that's already included charge everything. If you just look at a variable cost, we are 9.6 cents per kilowatt hour plus the monthly charge per meter. But we add all the together, 11.5. Seattle City Light today is 14 cents, even the variable piece. Okay. So you compare 9.6 to 14. I think so obviously we are a lot cheaper than Seattle City Light. So that's why the part I'm not sure I understand it, when you say I feel it's low, maybe the way you use energy is low, you don't use that much energy, but that's not necessarily reflect per unit cost.
Yeah. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for the information.
Travis, so our projected increase is 2.35 million, but with our proposed rate increase, how much will that produce?
There was a difference of about 120,000 projected.
Plus or minus?
Over the KYMEA increase. So we would, to cover our own expenses, it would be about an additional 120,000.
So it's pretty much one for one. One thing I would recommend, I love that you all moved here. I mean, I just love seeing
Yes.
families come here. There's a lot of things, Mr. Cubine mentioned, audits that we pay for low income, and up to a certain amount, I think it's 5,000 of improvement. So if you can't afford the audit, how can you afford the improvement? Well, we've even put in a fund for that. We have customers that put money in for other customers who might not be able to cover their bill. I mean, there's a lot of things. We've improved and updated our system so that you can see in real time your usage, so that you can, if you need to try to cut back, you have the tools to do that, as opposed to you just get a bill at the end of the month and you don't know what that came from. So I would encourage you all to go to our website and, you know, in your spare time with 2 little kids,
Yeah.
peruse it, just to familiarize yourself, because I can tell you all want to be involved, and I love that.
And we don't want to lose you all.
Yeah.
Well,
We want to keep you here.
thank you.
And I'll just make one point. I'm really honored to serve on this board because I've been very impressed with the Frankfurt Planning Board. I'm an energy consultant, so I understand the differences in the world, and you have IOUs, you have co-ops, and municipal utilities. And Frankfurt is very fortunate to have a muni, and I said that before I was on the board, and I'm very honored to be on this board because of that. It really does act as sort of a castle wall around the community from the vagaries of the changes out in the larger market. And so I took that very seriously, and this board's role is to work with the community to help make the community's needs become the municipal utility. I mean, you guys really are our owners, where if we were an IOU, the investors would be the owners, and they want their percentage return on top of everything else. So I'm really glad you guys came and kind of learned what we are, because Frankfurt is very unique to have such a robust and strong multi-sector municipal utility that we have. And we work very hard to serve the customers. And we have a really amazing staff, and every day they're here working for the customers. So,
You know, I've had the privilege of working in a lot of large organizations, and one of the things that I've noticed in any organization that is of reasonable size is that there's been a lot of effort put into Six Sigma, Lean, different ways of streamlining, moving forward, adapting. Could you give us any ideas of what your prospective changes might be to Lean as you move forward, to adapt to a consistently tighter and tighter market economy?
We constantly looking for internal efficiency. For example, right now there's a lot of doing the IT part, potential like a AI assistant, not necessarily, to help our employee, to help them to improve efficiency. And I just threw that example. I think we have a constant looking for, not just today, we have the record for last year, last 5 years. We doing the forecast, it's not just this year budget, it's the next 5 years. Every part of section say, what's the trend for the direction? If there anything we can do, we benchmark, there's more than 2,200 municipal electrical, similar like us, is owned by communities. It's not a full profit. So we always can compare how efficient we are compared to others. It's really end up reflecting retail rate, I want to honestly be.
Okay.
Yeah, because of a lot of things is very similar. You know, can we provide a reliable service? The reliability can be measured to comparison.
Well, let me give
go
you an
ahead.
example.
Sorry.
Actually.
Yes.
I want to toot Travis's horn over here because he's done amazing work. We recently, over the last 6 years, rolled out AMI. It was in works for a long time. Do you know what AMI is?
No, I do not.
So we went from the traditional utility where we have meter readers going out, physically reading meters, jumping over fences, dodging dogs,
Yep.
you know, that old school kind of way. And when you look at an old meter, it's just on a dial and it's spinning. You can only tell how much was used in the month, right? So you've just got one fixed number for the month of what a customer's using. With a lot of work on Travis's part, a lot of investment from the plant board, we invest in AMI, which now allows to have smart meters that on a 10-minute, 15-minute interval are pinging back to us over the lines all the stuff going on at every property in them. So this does a lot. Number one, you can go on the website and see your actual usage like a heartbeat. And you can actually go, whoa, why is my power going up at 3 a.m.? You know, who's turning on all the lights at 3 a.m.? And you can actually make adjustments to your power usage by actually seeing an audit right on the website. You can log right in and see it. That's because it's an AMI meter. Two, we were able to take those meter readers, relocate them to other parts of the company because we didn't need them going out to read anymore. Three, we were able to get higher, more efficient data so that customers, if they had an issue with their bill, they could come to us, we could show it, we could audit it. And then four, when a power outage happens, we know instantly. We know that we don't have to wait for the phone to ring. We can get out there, we can solve it, we can know what meters are affected by it. So that's just one thing we've done. That's a major thing. We made a huge investment. Travis and a lot of people spend a lot of time, but in doing so, it's helping us, but it's also helping the community in like 10 different ways. So that's just one example that maybe we haven't really talked about very much, but really, it's really a good service. But that is a good example of what utilities can do to start investing in themselves, investing in the community, and improving efficiencies across the board. So, sorry to take up. I do like to tout people's horns who do a lot of work in this.
I want to thank you for coming. The questions you've asked, you know, the efficiency question your wife asked about how we were able to not pass along the rate last time. My experience has told me that don't come this time, come multiple times to these meetings, not to this hearing. Come during regular meetings and ask those probing questions. Because my experience has told me that if you start doing that, things may change a little bit. And I'm not saying we're not doing anything wrong or right or wrong here.
Yeah.
But you know, you can impact people by you asking probing questions and watching.
Yeah.
So I would come back to this meeting multiple times.
And the budget we're considering has every piece of equipment we're talking about buying, everything. Feel free to come and say, why are you buying that? Why do you need that? Is there something cheaper you can buy? I mean, it's all listed here, it's public.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, and we will bid it, but it's in the budget now, but ask those questions. And you deserve to have those answers.
Well, and I'll say this, thank you again for coming, because all this is being videotaped and live streamed right now to the whole community. And if you have a question, 1,000 more people have that same question. So if we can answer your question, we're answering 1,000 people's questions. So that we really do appreciate you coming, so we can talk about this and answer the questions you guys have.
And in the future, you know, with 2 young kids, Steve, I'm sure he's going to be making a lot of plant board meetings. But we broadcast on Facebook, broadcast on YouTube. Every one of our meetings is there for you to see.
Yeah.
Every monthly meeting, every special meeting we have is there. So, you know, there's a lot going on, and we appreciate you being here.
Yeah. And everyone on this board, all the management board live in this community, and they're out there, and people ask us questions, and they should.
Mm-hmm.
And we ought to be able to answer the questions. If we can't, we need to get them the answer, because they deserve that.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate all of your time, ladies and gentlemen. And
Thank you.
Thank you for educating me on some things that I didn't know.
Mhm.
And hopefully, should I come back, I can proffer some better contextualized questions
Right.
to you all.
Come anytime.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Was that everybody, Ms. Poe?
That is the end of the list, yes.
Okay, with that, with the board's approval, that concludes the public hearing on electric. And now we go to item 3.2, which is conduct a public hearing regarding, number 1, increasing rate for cable TV customer charge, cable network pass-through fees, and preferred cable. Number 2, increasing the rate for bulk cable 1, bulk cable 2. Number 3, increasing rate for HBO and reducing the rate for Cinemex. And number 4, increasing the rate for standard definition set-top, high definition set-top, high definition DVR, and digital gateway fee. The hearing will come to order. My name is John Cubine. I've been requested by the board to conduct this hearing. We're going to be discussing about the items I just read. Same rules and procedures applied as we did with electric. And by the same token, if anybody has any questions or any additional comments, if they would submit those by Monday, July 20th. To submit a comment, contact FPB.
June 20th.
June
20th.
I've got July 20th here.
Should be
June.
20th, yeah.
It should be June? June 20th, 2026. Submit a comment, please contact FPB at 352-4372 or on our website at www.fpb.cc. And with that, I'll turn it over to Harvey Couch to give a summary of the details.
Thank you, Mr. Cuban. Members of the board, tonight's public hearing concerns several proposed adjustments to our cable television rates and equipment fees. Before walking through these items, I want to, emphasize that these recommendations are not made lightly. We recognize that any increase impacts our customers. We work hard every year to keep these adjustments as limited as possible. I think, as you mentioned earlier tonight, the primary driver behind nearly all of these changes continues to be the rising wholesale cost of programming and broadcast content. The fees that we and therefore our customers pay to cable networks and broadcasters increase year over year. And in many of these cases, those increases have accelerated as media companies continue to consolidate through mergers and acquisitions. As these conglomerates gain more control over programming rights and distribution, providers like FPB are left with very little negotiating leverage on wholesale rights. I have a few charts to show about the rates tonight to try to help illustrate the trend. Since 2003, the programming expense as a percentage of the customer bill has grown from roughly 38% to nearly 90%, while FPB's operational portion has steadily declined over that same period. And likewise, as far as the actual dollars that we pay for programming, which is the next chart, David, you can see the green line. As I like to say, that's the money that stays here in Frankfurt, and it is lower today than it was in 2005. The orange line is the line that leaves town, that goes to New York and Los Angeles to pay for all the content on cable. Importantly, FPB, far from alone in facing these pressures across the industry. Video providers continue raising rates in response to escalating content costs. With that context, to just review the proposed adjustments in 4 different categories. First, on the programming side, we're proposing increases to the cable TV customer charge and the cable network pass-through fee. The pass-through fee directly reflects what FPB pays to content providers, and those annual adjustments are necessary to keep pace with the wholesale cost. Again, those are direct pass-through fees. Next, the bulk cable rates would increase by a similar percentage. These are services primarily for hotels, dormitories, and larger commercial properties. Then with regard to premium channels, we're making adjustments in both directions. HBO rates would increase due to the higher programming costs from the provider, while Cinemax rates will decrease because our wholesale cost for that service has recently gone down. We're recommending those savings be passed along to our customers. And finally, we're proposing updates to our equipment-related fees, including set-top boxes and the digital gateway fee. These changes reflect higher maintenance costs, vendor software and security fees, and the continued expense of supporting legacy equipment and back-end systems. Taken together, these recommendations are intended to keep our rates aligned with the actual cost of providing service while continuing to deliver reliable video service to our customers. I do also want to mention, I think maybe Mr. Cuban mentioned, we do have, other options for our customers, less costs. Obviously, our retention tier doesn't have any sports programming. You could save some money by switching to that. We also have our new Nextband Now package, which is just $20. No broadcast channels, no sports channels, but you do get lots of good content from Hallmark, A&E, History Channel, Lifetime, HDNet Movies. There are 50 channels, and you get Cable 10, which is fantastic. And all that's just $20 a month. So just wanted to, we're trying to give options to folks. We know that classic cables continue to increase in cost, trying to keep that as low as possible, but again, just trying to bring options. Happy to answer any questions anybody has on this item.
John, any question?
Do we have anybody signed up to?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kathy.
We do not have anybody signed up, but I do want to make a correction. We will accept comments through June 15th.
June 15th. Okay. Well, since we don't have a public comment, I'm going to make a public comment now. Thank you, Harvey, and I'm going to give the speech I give every year at this time, when I you know, the cable operators and the cable content providers are bad enough in terms of what they do to us with their rates and their increases. I just thank the Lord we have the NTCT, the National Cable Television Cooperative, that helps negotiate on our behalf with a lot of other small operators to give us some semblance of buying power. Once again, I'm going to say if you go back to that line, one of the big jumps in that line happened, what, about 2004 or 5, when we had to start paying to get to broadcast
the
free broadcast stuff we could pull over the air.
Right.
And now that makes up I can't say how much because we're having NDA agreements on individual charges. It makes up a significant portion of what that cable package costs, and it was a change in federal law that allowed it to happen. It flipped it completely on its head. It used to be we had to carry these channels if they wanted us to, if we could get them and they wanted us, we had to carry it. Now they can charge us for it. We fought with that. And we've also fought with that because we're in a real weird situation with being so close to Louisville and Lexington both. You know, we have ties to both areas, and it's difficult. We've had to make a lot of difficult choices there.
You
but
will, not to interrupt, but we'll have to do that again.
Oh, yeah.
In the end of this year.
Right.
And there's been more media
consolidation with Sinclair and all those others.
Broadcast groups. So just to be aware.
But I appreciate what you all do to try to hold the line as much as possible. But so much of this is out of our control. It's not even funny. We're literally passing through just about everything here. That's the only comment I've got, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I think it's important because, as Harvey pointed out, our cost, that bottom line, has actually gone down.
Yeah.
What we're keeping here has gone down, but the overall cable bill has continued to grow. And I know that's a frustration to a lot of people, but, and what John was just talking about, I mean, the major networks, the commercial networks, as John said, used to be free, and now if we want to carry them, we have to pay them in order to put their signal on. And we go through that, like you said, Harvey, that'd be coming up. We go through that every year. Do we carry all the Lexington channels? Do we carry the Louisville channels? If we carry channels, which ones do we carry? And what do the people in this community want? Because we can provide them whatever they want. Unfortunately, there's a charge that goes with every choice.
Yep. Yeah, we'll have that. There's a 3-year cycle on that retrans, and that's up at the end of this year.
Okay.
How does it come up so fast?
I would say I look forward to it, but I do not.
I had a lot more hair when I started doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions of the board for Harvey? We don't have anyone signed up, right?
No.
And no written comments or anything came in?
Okay.
No written comments
Okay.
on the table.
Got to go back over that again. Any comments due by June 15th?
June 15th, yes.
Okay.
Business.
On either one of these items,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Correct.
great.
And they can do it either by email or by calling, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Or they can go online.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
can have places for customers to comment
Okay.
on the website.
Yeah.
as
Okay,
well.
good.
Okay. Harvey, thank you. With that, Mr. Chairman, that concludes the 2 public hearings. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much, John. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Kathy, we received any other public comments this month?
No, sir.
Thank you very much. Next item is departmental reports. Gary, Travis going to handle those this month? Travis, take it away.
Yes, sir, and I'll hand it right off to Kathy Lindsay for public information.
Hello, everybody. First of all, I just want to say thank you for changing the meeting to tonight. Because,
Wow, what are you doing tomorrow night?
Tomorrow's going to be very busy. Again, we've had early voting Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Tomorrow is election day, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then we'll be doing live election returns on Cable 10. We'll be live from the county clerk's office. It's going to be a great time, so tune in, everybody. So because of that, again, I just want to encourage everybody, if you haven't voted yet and you don't know who to vote for, go get on YouTube tonight, Cable 10's YouTube page, and there's all kinds of interviews with all of our candidates that we did in our Meet the Candidate series. We have our candidates for sheriff and our candidates for magistrate in the 6th district. So you can check out all those, decide who you're going to vote for, and get out and do that tomorrow. And then watch us on Cable 10 tomorrow night. I would like to say that we have chosen our 3 scholarship recipients. We got together with the Rotary Youth Foundation Committee, went through all of the applications, everybody did all the scoring, and FPB has 3 really good ones that we're looking forward to presenting scholarships to at their senior awards ceremonies. And you'll get to hear who those are next month. We don't want to, we got to save the surprise for the kids. And then also in May, the first week in May is National Drinking Water Week, and we celebrated that. But we like to just take the month of May really to just extra appreciation for our water department, everything that they do from treating our water to all of the distribution and keeping our water safe and healthy. So we want to appreciate all of our water workers. We just give them a little extra something in May to recognize them. And I think that's it. That's what I have to present. Oh, well, besides, again, I want to give kudos to Cable 10 because they're doing this tonight. We've got the election returns tomorrow night. They've got softball district tournament on Wednesday. Then they have Western Hills and Franklin County graduations on Saturday. So they're working a lot of after hours this week. So if you see them, just give them a thumbs up. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And I might just mention, Mr. Chairman, Kathy, you and your team did I watched most of the debates or
Yes.
the interviews, and you all did an outstanding job. You really did.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. It's really important that people hear from our local candidates, and we're happy to do it.
And that's something a lot of much bigger cities don't offer.
That's right. It's one of our favorite things.
Yeah, you all do a good job.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks, Kathy. Next up, Travis, take care.
Yep. Darren with the knock and safety report.
Good evening. For the month of April, it looks like the NOC entered 743 trouble calls and handled 3,085 phone calls. On the locate side of the house, 878 locates. So, springtime, big projects, getting busy. For the fiscal year, that's 6,908 locates. And for the safety report, we had 0 workplace injuries and 2 vehicle accidents. They were both minor fender bender. I don't think either one of them were any fault of our staff. 3 damage investigations. Again, nothing major there. Contractors digging into fiber lines and stuff like that. And then just our normal inspections and trainings and that type of thing. So,
Okay. Any questions?
anything? Nope.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Next up, customer service reports. April.
Good evening. The customer service reports can be found on page 121 to 124. There on page 121 is that customer service overview. So in the month of April, it was really similar to the month of March. We had about 80 less customer contacts in April than we did March, so almost a mirror of March. Those wait times did go down slightly by a few seconds. Most notably, the 4 peak days, those are all under a minute, except for that tier 3 was under 2 minutes. So last month they were over a minute, and then just slightly over 2 minutes. So the cashier transactions, we had about 1,291 transactions through the drive-through, 4,678 calls, and 1,579 customers who came in the office. We had the kiosk transactions were similar to last month as well, and then we had a really good month with our Google reviews. We had 19 positive reviews, so that's 4 or 5 star reviews, and then we had 2. There were 3 or less. So we obviously want those to be 0, but still a pretty good month as far as Google reviews. We are still sitting right at a 3.5 star review with 856 reviews. And then just a reminder to our, last month I talked about budget for our Cycle 1 customers, which are due on the 1st of the month. Their reconciliation month ended. They've gotten their new bills with their budget amounts, but we are still in reconciliation for those Cycle 2 customers. So just a reminder to those customers that are due on the 15th that if they want to sign up for budget billing and they've never been on budget billing, that they do have till this Friday. So the deadline is this Friday because bills will start to go out next week. But other than that, sorry, I've been under the weather, so I'm a little froggy up here today.
That's okay.
But other than that, business as usual for customer service.
Any questions at all? Thank you.
Sorry.
Get better.
Thanks. I'm on the other end of it, so
All
I
right.
feel better. I'm just feeling
Good.
about that a little bit.
Good.
Next up will be the telecom reports. Adam?
Good evening. The report starts on page 125 with customer penetrations. We have exceeded 10,000 customers over to the new next band service, so that's good. Moving pretty steadily along with those conversions. The outages for the month, we had 4. 2 were blown fuses. One was a fire, and the other one was a tree that fell down on Ewing Street. Everything got put back up, and everybody got turned back on. Trouble calls are sitting at 279 for the month. Still, customer education seems to be leading the charge for the reason. On the grants, we've activated, we've passed 393 homes in the county can now get broadband. Out of those, we haven't really started all the marketing, but we have 29 active customers, and we have 27 miles left of plant to build to finish those broadband grants. That's where we stand this month. And if anybody has any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Next up, Scott with the electric report.
Good evening. The electric report starts on page 129. So this month kind of gave you a little bit something to see different than you haven't seen in the past. With SAIDI numbers, we always talk about SAIDI and storms and outages and stuff like that. With the outage report reliability system, you do not actually count severe weather events into your overall number. But you can see those numbers for utility to look at them to see how they're reacting during storm weathers, if there's something you need to pick on, more of areas and stuff like that. So starting on page 129, if you'll see that we actually did have 2 big outages for the month of April. We had a substation issue, which was about 4,800 customers, and then we had a transmission issue, which resulted in around 7,000 customers. So, if you look at a storm report, you're going to see the SAIDI numbers at 127, which is really, really high based upon what we normally do. If you go back to what you usually do is you'll see that page 130, that our SAIDI number for the month of April is 31. Again, so then on page 131, you see your 2025, your next one is, I'm sorry, I bet backwards, got it backwards. So 2026 is, yes. So the 26 one is 31.21. Then if you look at 25's numbers, it's 36.06. And then if you look at 21 numbers, 32.78. So you can see that we're running normal as far as the true outage part. Page 133 shows your pie charts and your percentages. You can see that the one with the severe weather, worst the weather event was 11,000 some odd customers. The customer count is 26, still kind of the same numbers you see. And on page 134, you'll see that when you take the weather event out, like you're supposed to do, you'll see that's actually the count's 25, and it has 4,810 customers. And the same thing on the top 10 outages, it just shows one where it shows what the weather event, the numbers of customers, the minutes out, stuff like that, and then it shows the next page, just a normal month. So just something different to see, because some people's asked me before about the SAIDI numbers, how come your SAIDI number's only this, but you have to explain to them that it's, it's all based upon the reporting program is you don't include severe weather. So just something for you to see if somebody ever asks you. That's it for me, unless you got a question.
Well, it's sitting through down Shelby Street on the one. We knew it was going to happen because it kicked 4 or 5 times before it finally went out completely. But,
yeah, it was a transmission line. It went out with the tree, and so that took out the 3 substations we had. And then, as a matter of fact, all the other substations in the system saw it as well, because I was downtown Frankfort when it was happening, and I was over around St. Clair, so that's all underground lines. So I knew it wasn't that. So anyway,
thanks for your profession. You guys handling that so efficiently. I looked at the little outage map, and my families were texting me, "You're on the plant board. What's going on?" I'm like, "Just wait a few hours.
It'll be fine.
It'll all be taken care of in a few hours. They got this." So thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott. The CFA report is on page 137 of your board package. For April, our CEPA bill was $88,737. Our net payment for CEPA, $125,866, for a profit to the board of $37,129, which brings us through April of this year, benefit to the board of $832,453. So doing well on CEPA this year. You know, our spring months are usually down a little bit. Not a lot of energy production coming off of the hydro plant, so looks like we're tracking pretty well on CEPA.
Okay.
And if there's no questions on those for KYMEA, Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, their meeting is gonna be on Friday this week, not the
Yes.
normal Thursday meeting. They moved it a day later, so normal time on Friday will be the KYMEA meeting. Gary, anything else we should cover on that?
Not much, except, just like this board have to face tough decision for the retail rate because of KYMEA increased rate on the wholesale side. My only thing want to really mention that is in the future, which is proposed by the staff, KYMEA looking for next year their rate increase, at least just on the table, is twice than this year's retail rate increase. What my plea is, I hope all the board members of KYMEA can really sincerely looking for that, because the same period of time, they already have a very high cash reserve. Is at a time use some the cash reserve relieve the impact to the all our retail customer. So I'm not sure, that's definitely the direction we would like to look into it, hopefully, because it's very hard to many of our customers.
Does the board need to take some action to relay that message to KYMEA?
Me and Travis definitely have any chance we could in the future board meeting. We will express that to, if you consent, if you support, to let them know that.
I could attend and yell at them again, but they don't seem to like that.
Thank you.
They had technical difficulties.
Yeah, whatever.
All right. Next up will be the water distribution reports. Bruce?
Good evening, board. For the month of April, we installed 13 new water services, had 3 water main breaks. All 3 water main breaks did lead to a water outage for proper repair. Some other key points for April review: flushed 377 fire hydrants, installed approximately 850 foot of water main, worked 673 service orders, changed out 626 water meters, and in closing today at 3:30, we changed out the last meter to get everything completed for the AMI system.
Wow.
So
Great.
had to schedule it with Woodford Reserve, the distillery. So they're a little difficult to schedule with. They like water. But anyway, got that done at 3:30 today. So,
Great. Fantastic.
yep, everything's moving forward. So, do you have any questions? If not, thank you.
Well, one comment I would like to put in is how big a deal it is to water. I'm not saying it's less important electrical, but water, particularly if the customer has a water leakage behind the meter. Usually we know a month later that can be thousands gallon more. And this way currently is almost real time. We will send out a notice as soon we can. Then customer can resolve that issue much quicker. I think that's a lot of value because we constantly dealing with the customer say, why my bill is so high, right? This can really helpful. Sorry, I know you're very busy schedule, so.
Well, and when I was talking about AMI, I was focused on electric. Sorry, I just slide water because it's a big deal too. I just want to keep it brief as possible. So thank you, sure, Mr.
And
to follow up on that, you know, we started off with 72-hour usage. If we saw something, we call it continuous usage, it provided a report, and we're literally calling these customers or sending them notifications. But we reduced it to 24, and the way I learned that was when I got my own little 24-hour notification. My child left the water hose on. So I thought it was 72 hours. They said it's been 24 hours. So it's very, very helpful to get these notifications. So,
Right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Travis, how close are we on electric, by the way?
We are done. We are fully
done?
deployed.
So we're
Yep.
fully deployed on both now?
Yep, just
Great.
had a meeting with them this afternoon, transitioning from a deployment to support, and we're kind of off and running.
Great,
Yep.
great, good.
Brandon, who's already up here with water treatment plant report.
There you go.
Hey, buddy.
Yep.
Efficiency.
Yeah, we're striving for that. So. For the month of April, the water treatment plant treated 262,883,000 gallons of water for an average of 8.38 million gallons per day. Lock 4 averaged 2,081 cubic feet per second for an average of 1.34 billion gallons a day. And on May 13th, we did get Division of Water approval for our new tube settler project. So
Okay, good.
we'll do that and open bids on June the 9th. So.
Okay, great, fantastic. Any questions? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that concludes the departmental reports.
Thank you, Travis.
Yes, sir.
Moving on to action items. Item 6.1, consider approval of the FPB Cable 10 Student Media Program. Coming out from the shadows, David Columbia, ladies and gentlemen. The man behind the curtain, all right.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Thank
It's
you.
nice to not be shouting numbers at you. As you all know, we've had a partnership with Franklin County Schools and Frankfurt Independent Schools to cover their sports for, I think, over 50 years, approaching 60 years. We'd like to expand on that partnership in a way that's beneficial to the schools and to the plant board. We talked about rates a little bit tonight. This is a way to save some money in the long run. So we're looking at starting a student worker program where some students would work alongside of professional staff with us, mainly with our sports productions. That's the one they're really interested in and one we could really use help on. So we worked with Michelle and Hans to kind of flesh out all the details to make sure we're covering all of our company policies and all of those things. And we have a little bit of budgeted money in the proposed budget. You'll find that you were handed tonight. So eventually this will offset some of our part-time on-call videographers' pay. And so hopefully build a pipeline too of people that are interested in television production and that they can help us. Alongside of that, Franklin County Career and Tech Center hired a full-time media arts teacher. So they're going to have a full-time studio going, and we're going to help them get that going in partnership with them, and they're going to provide us some content.
Great.
And in August, hopefully launch the Frankfurt Public Schools, or Franklin County Public Schools, and Frankfurt Independent Schools will have their own channel on Next Grand Stream, so specific to each school system. So
Great.
all of that, all together, have some students work with us and build on that relationship.
Great.
So we just wanted to bring that to the board so we can move forward with it.
Any questions from any of the members?
Do we need to take action?
Well,
Is that
I
part
mean,
of the
is
budget
this, you're
process,
talking
or-
about approval, is this something that is there anything we need to approve specifically, or is this just gonna be part of the budget? Is there a certain document we need to approve, or?
I don't think so. I think it's in the budget to,
Okay.
the proposed budget would be, this is contingent on the proposed budget.
Okay.
It's only $5,000 we have
Right.
in the budget, so a small
Okay.
amount of money, but I think
Well,
it'll be.
if that's the case, I'll go ahead and accept a motion to consider approve this plan, contingent on budget approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll make a motion that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, David, we look forward to having it in the budget and seeing what happens next fall.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
John, if we were in the legislative process,
Yes.
just call it locking in your thing before.
That's right. Item 6.2, consider FPB donation for a new water fountain at the Farmers Market. Sharmista.
Good evening. Our public water fountain policy allows entities throughout our community to request an FPV partnership for the purchase and installation of public water fountains. We usually get one a year. The last one we did was a partnership with Second Street School, and this time the city of Frankfurt has submitted an application for a public water fountain at the new Farmers Market. Since the water fountain policy went into effect, we typically donate or partner with the labor and equipment to install, and then the entity would be responsible for all materials. In this case, it's around almost $6,500. The bulk of that is the water fountain. The water fountain itself is about $5,400, so the rest of the materials are pretty minimal. We do budget for this annually. We haven't had anybody spend any money out of this fund this fiscal year, so we do have money available. And the city of Frankfort is asking for a partnership or an approval of a donation for the water fountain for a little less than $2,000.
Sharmish, is that $1,900 labor estimate, is that pretty standard depending, no matter what, or can it vary from application to application?
It varies. It depends on how far away the main's gonna be, where they want the water fountain, what size line we're tapping.
Okay.
So in this case, we just happen to have a water line literally adjacent to
Right
the
to
new
it.
market,
Okay,
so
good.
it's pretty sweet.
Any other questions from any of the members?
I'm just kind of curious.
No, go ahead.
What's the vandalism around water fountains? Like, I just don't see them around very often, and I wonder if they're in a public spot, what that sort of situation is.
They are all pretty public, you know, we got them down the St. Clair Street, at all the parks and so forth, and I'm gonna have to direct Bruce, have we had vandalism issues?
No.
Not yet, they'll knock somewhere.
It's been good, so.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. I was just curious. That's great. Thank you. And those are the ones you can fill the bottle on as well? And
They will, so on the application, if you saw it, we actually asked what features they want. It's just the old fashioned turn one with the bottle filler and the pet bowl too, and this one they're asking for all three.
Awesome.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you.
John?
And I was just gonna add, we're sort of potentially obligated to do this in a way. Was it maybe a year or more ago? The lady who runs the farmer's market came before us and told us they were being relocated and asked us if there was any way we could help them when they relocated from where they are now to Home Street. And the board didn't take a formal action, but she made an excellent presentation and was very nice, and she basically just said, can you help me? So we kind of looked at her and said, yeah, we probably,
Yeah.
And the fact that we still got money in the budget and they're wanting it, and it's, I think it's a very popular feature for them to have. And like I said, she came and asked early before they ever moved and wanted to know if we could help her, so.
All right. Seeing no further questions, I'll accept a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, get them the water fountain. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Item number 6.3, consideration of employee matter. Michelle?
This information was emailed to all of the board members.
Yes, thank you.
Good evening, Board Chair and members of the board. This information was sent to the board previously. Are there any questions that the board have to ask concerning the grievance?
Do any members have any questions of Michelle? Michelle, could you, essentially, could you explain in kind of non-specific detail about what the concern is?
Yes.
And what we're being asked to do?
Yes.
What we're being asked to consider?
So the employee that is requesting an exception to our current compensation plan. Our previous plan allowed where with certain position and position titles for promotions were 5% per grade. And some of the grades were reassigned with our new Korn Ferry study. And so where they were previously, some were 2 to 3 grades, these are mostly a 1 grade increase. And so this employee is asking that with his most current promotion, that we revert back to the old compensation plan, Where at that time, it would have been a grade 107 to a 109, but under the new reassigned grades, it's a F11 to F12, which resulted in a 5% increase.
Do any of the members have any questions? I can just say, we have been faced with this same question before. We made a change in what we did with our personnel policy. We had an employee ask a very similar question last year and ask for a dispensation, and the feeling of the board at that time, correct me if I'm wrong, Nichelle, was that we did this new personnel system for a reason, that we wanted to stay with it, that we didn't want to cause confusion and revert back to treat some people under the old system and treat everybody else under the new system, and we denied that request last year. Is that correct?
Correct.
I will, take discussion from any of the members. If any of the members would like to make a motion to make some sort of action on this, I would accept that also at this time.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
What this employee is asking is for that particular person specifically is to change the policy, but leave the policy in place for everyone else. But for this one employee, that they would get a 10% increase rather than a 5%, but that the policy would, so basically what they're asking is to amend the policy just for them one time. Is that correct?
Yes, and actually they would have received a 15%. It was a grade 1. In the previous plan, it was a grade 107, and
Okay.
his promotion was to a grade, would have been to a grade.
But they're not asking for the overall policy to be changed. They're just asking for the policy to be changed for them.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And were they promised this before the change, or was there any there's no other mitigating circumstances around this?
No.
Okay.
No.
Wait, Steve.
Who was Paul in the letter from John to Paul? Who was Paul?
That is the supervisor of
Supervisor.
the employee.
Okay, so to your question, in the letter from him to Paul, it looks like, from Paul, it looks like it was a promise or something. All right, let me ask you this way. This letter, what Paul is saying, was that given? Because I don't know whether it's 5%, 10%, whatever. Is he given what he was promised in Paul's letter?
So there are no promises, no contracts, because I think he also mentions a contract. But based on the old plan, he was thinking if we hadn't have changed the plan, people can see what their grades are and what the next step is. But when we changed the plan, we're under a new compensation plan. So there was, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. All I'm asking is, the letter that his supervisor sent him said that, you were advised that in 2 years you would get this. All I'm asking, did he get what this letter says?
No.
Okay.
No, because we changed our
policy.
So what the supervisor is saying, as I read it, is, I disagree with the change policy, and I'd like to give you the money, but that's not what the policy is. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Is Mr. Ellis here? No.
Have there been other employees similarly affected over this period of time that only benefited from what the current policy is and not the old policy?
That only benefited or did not benefit? No.
That did not.
That did not benefit.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because several of our position titles, like again, there wasn't a 2-grade jump. They may have changed to a 1-grade jump because Korn Ferry ranges are wider.
So if we went back, if we granted this exception, then we would have another whole line of other grievances of people saying, if you changed it for that person, why can't I change it?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think the consideration should really be, which we're beyond this, but
Right.
is our policy wrong?
Right.
It might be a kick in the butt for someone when you got hired, like, oh, I think in 2 years you're gonna get blah-de-blah.
Right.
Well, things change, and we updated because things were just being done piecemeal, and we wanted to be fair internally and be able to recruit people and took all that under considerations. So, you know, he's not saying it's wrong, he's just saying it's not aligning with what he thought would happen.
Well, and when he came onto the job 2 years, you know, kind of before all of that. And obviously his supervisor appreciates him and sort of agrees that he deserves, you know, based on an old system.
I want to tell you, this is a systemic problem that I've been talking about for the last 3 years. Most times it helps people because they're able to bump a couple of times and get compounded on their raises on different actions. A few people are now getting caught on the other side of that system of us going each year to Corn Ferry, every 2 years to Corn Ferry, and they adjust things. And I think it's artificial because they're basing it on not here locally, as some of the people that spoke earlier. It's not based locally. So I think we need to stop using Corn Ferry every 2 years because that's what you're going to run into. And that's what's caused this.
Right, but I don't agree that they were basing their recommendations on inappropriate comparisons to market.
Well, the market, if you define market for 70% of the jobs here, it's state government jobs. You know, until you get to a specialized job, it's not any different than state government, KSU, some of these other places. So that is a market for an administrative assistant or whatever. Those are generic jobs for the most part. So when we start changing the system and their raises become outside of what the norm is in Franklin County, and you know, it's helped a lot of people, but here's the other side of that. This guy did not know, and I'm not saying we should give it. This guy, this employee did not know, and no one knew that the system was going to keep moving and pull him out of being raised from one grade to 2 grades above to one grade above. Those kind of things happen because the system changed each year.
But also keep in mind that we have two different kind of divisions in
Yes.
order to compare appropriately, and one's field
And when it's core.
and one's, so.
That we did not have before.
Right.
I agree. The system changes each 2 years, and this is the kind of backlash.
Right.
Regardless whether you have 2 divisions of that system or not, it's if you keep doing that, and that's an artificial, in my opinion, artificial way to compensate generalized positions outside of the specialized positions.
Any other questions, any other comments? Adam, did you have anything to weigh in on, or were you just here to answer questions?
I can weigh in on it if you would like.
That, whatever you'd like to do. If you'd like to speak, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so the employee in question, he came up through installation. He had an opportunity to to move into the tech area. And I guess everybody here that's ever hired anybody, when you sit down, you kind of lay out, to him it was a financial decision. He could have stayed where he was and got 5%, or he could have moved on and got 10%. And so basically, that was his decision, is I'm gonna take this and play the long game, because in 2 years, I'm gonna get 10%. And then basically, we came up and the board adopted a new policy, and then they pretty much flattened all the grades. And so he only received 5%. That's the issue. The other issue that's probably not before you tonight is a lot of the employees that we've hired in the last 2 or 3 years, when we sit down and interview them, it's like, well, what am I going to get at the plant board? And we say, well, you'll start here, and then 6 months you'll do this, or 12 months you'll do this, and we've laid all those out. I have employees that started 6 months apart. One got a 10% raise, and one only got a 5% raise because of this rule. We were in the same interviews, and so it's kind of the disconnect, is because I have personally made promises based on what we have in front of us as far as a pay comp. And then when this stuff came out and it flattened out, so I have I have several that'll be back, or you will have grievances from in the future because of the way this happened. Nothing against them, they're great employees, but they just got trapped in the old system versus the new system. One I've talked to Michelle about, he will break even and actually do 2% better in 7 years, I think is what it is. This guy, he's actually an electrician, he has his license, and it's like, we're paying $20 an hour. And it's like, I just told, he should have got, I think it was 10, it might have been 15%, because he went from basically a apprentice to an installer. And it's like, I don't think he will stay. And he is a very quality employee, I think very highly of, just like this employee we're talking about tonight. So there are some issues and that we probably need to look at long term. And I know what you're saying, Mr. Mason, and I agree, but maybe, and I'm getting way outside here, but maybe we look at these compensation plans. If you're hired on this date, you go this route. If you're hired after this date, then you're under this plan. I know it kind of messes things up, but to me, it's promises we've made to employees. That's all.
Okay.
Now, obviously our general manager weighed in on this. And Gary, you have the right to basically make an exception.
Yes, I do. But only the difference is if I do choose a grade of one employee, then most likely I have to set a similar case for other employee. Otherwise, they're going to potentially create a similar issue. But most time I do follow our either legal, our HR recommendation. Most time I do want you to know we follow the policy you approve strictly. There is a variable most time I can tell you what it is, like a new hiring, right? If we say after interview all the group, usually I don't involve that directly, then they say this is the best person to do that, but then suddenly we look at all the pay policy, they say there's a gap between that, then I might have a little bit of flexibility, but every time I do, I will send you to say this is beyond the policy we follow. I would say this part of if you remember it, when we have the study done, actually they recommend, they do squeeze more level between, usually you talk about there are 2-3 difference, but they are making less comparable. But same time, they also recommend between the grade, is instead of 5, they recommend 8%.
Okay.
But overall, when we look at the policy, the decision was, follow just 5. A lot of part may cause some the issue, but I cannot predict that also because even say follow the old policy can be 15% increase, but if you look at new policy, even 8% instead of 5%, you still have a gap.
Right.
So I certainly understand Adam talk about it because of the real world, how do we take care of employee, keep them, we understand, but it's very complicated, I mean, I'm not saying Gary cannot do, with you
right.
bless, I will definitely can have a more room to do the things. I intend to not go there a lot because I just say we saw one problem, we might create 5 behind that.
Right.
Yes.
And I think one of the things we were worried about last year was setting a precedent for doing this time and time again. And, I just, would just ask the board if there is a If there's a will of the board, or if someone would like to make a motion, I'll accept it at this time.
If we take no action, that means that,
Yes.
the general manager's decision.
Decision is final, yes.
Okay.
Is that correct, Hans? Or do we have to make an affirmative denial or affirmative?
I think either way, it's the board's preference. If you wanted to take no action, you could take no action, or you could just a motion to uphold the general manager's determination.
Do you all know what we did? What did we do last? Did we make a motion to uphold the general manager's decision?
That I can't recall,
Okay.
but either.
That's what we did.
I think.
Okay.
I think either to be specific, the more specificity.
Right. Sure.
You can
Okay.
make a specific motion.
Okay. Yes, Jason.
I mean, you know, I'd take expectations really seriously, you know, with my clients and them to me, you know, that's about contracts, and, you know, you have handshake and agreements and understandings in which you conduct your work. So, and I know there's time lags when people are brought in and when they brought in and they make transitions, and I really appreciate Adam kind of talking about that, but it would almost be impossible for us to chart that. So it feels like we do have to just draw a line in the sand and say before and after, because to figure out how to chart every single expectation to then align, it just seems impossible, you know?
Okay.
So it's unfortunate, because I take it very seriously, and I do not want employees to think that we do not appreciate their work. And
Absolutely.
But my understanding of going to the system in HR, I'm new to this, and it's not my area of expertise, but it was to try to make it fair for everyone over time.
Yeah.
It was a big transition, but it's a one-time thing.
Right.
Outside of what Steve is saying.
Yeah.
One-time thing that moves around. I would like
Right.
to maybe understand that a little bit better, what you're
Yeah.
saying, Steve, because it doesn't, maybe that was something I got lost in the print on every 2 years,
Okay.
but clearly the market is moving.
Yeah.
It's constantly moving, and if
Mhm.
they're refreshing every 2 years, it's to try to mimic the market, you know. And we are, and I'll say it again, we are challenging. What I did get away from it is we have an admin staff, and we have technical support utility staff, and they're very different services, and
Right.
one's based on our local utilities and one's based more on our state
Yeah.
counterparts. So we do have a unique system here, so.
Yeah.
But regardless of which one of those you're talking about, it is the responsibility of this organization to make sure that employees aren't harmed, as we do change compensation plans. So, I mean, we have 210, something like that employees. We should be able to figure out how to devise a plan to give a pay raise that does not harm, more senior employee versus a junior. And the example that, Adam just said, that's kills an organization, those kinds of scenarios where someone comes in at the same time and one's paid more. So when we do these Korn Ferry classification studies, and I know y'all kind of do that, Michelle. I'm not saying y'all aren't doing that. That's paramount. That has to be one of the paramount factors when we do this. Probably as much as how much money the pay raise is.
Well, and I think maybe what you're saying, and maybe one thing I was feeling is, and Michelle, you're a master at what you do, I'm sure, is it seems like some of these people are getting caught off guard. They get to the point where they're like, oh, great.
Right.
And then they go to their supervisor and they're like, whoa, hold on, where'd that come from? If there's a way we can get ahead of the ball in 6 months or 9 months before someone expects something, at least get them prepared. Because a few of these cases have come up where it's almost like day of, they're like, wait, what do you mean I'm not getting that? So,
Jason,
I'm
they
sure
got caught off guard. We changed the rules, and if you call that off guard, yeah, we changed the rules, but they won't know we've changed the rules until we change the rules. So
I'm just saying how it would affect an individual person, how those rules then would go on to affect
that's
their
what I'm saying.
expectations.
That is the responsibility of this organization to make sure whatever the compensation plan is doesn't harm an employee.
And I remember during the process, that process as well as budgeting, Michelle giving us routinely lists of names of people who are gonna be above this or below this, and us weighing how to deal with those, I don't know, outliers or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like we lost sight of individuals in that process, even though it needs to be an overall
Right.
The
process.
proof is on the agenda tonight.
But I can say this, I remember under the old system, sitting on this board and having similar issues come up where employees hired in later or earlier, that their issues came up even under the old system. So it wasn't like it never came up before.
Yes. So there
I mean,
was-
we had it happen before, because we had, and I won't say, but it was in one particular department where an employee had been with us for a long time, and a new employee came in, they were something like 3 or 4 cents difference, and I mean, it was those kind of situations. So we've had it before, even under the old system. And any personnel system that handles a large number of employees, I mean, it's kind of a, whether, you know, it comes into annual increments, and when that occurs, and when they were hired, and when they got promoted. I mean, it just all kinds of things. Sometimes you can predict it, and sometimes it's just the result of a whole bunch of circumstances creates an inequity to the employee that you just didn't see coming, because you didn't see all the events that happened later in that person's career.
So we asked for a specific list of things that we wanted Korn Ferry to do. There was a recommendation for time and role. So it's so many different things that compensation consultants and plans recommend for you to do. But we just didn't select them all. And so, like you said, sometimes if you don't look at someone's time and role, because as the salary grades increase, you do have somebody that's been here 20 years may have started here working for $10, and now we hire somebody at $20. So that jumps that new individual up. And when you have somebody that doesn't take the path of being a manager, or they just want to stay at the same level, then that individual that we hired today is so close to a 20-year employee. So there's just different avenues that we could have looked at, but did not. But again, were we ready to do that then?
Anybody have a motion?
Basically, I move that we affirm the general manager's decision based on our current compensation policy that's in place right now.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Item 6.4, consider award of bid invitation 1845 for pad mount and pole mounted transformers to Brownstown Electric Supply Company. Leanne.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Oh.
Leanne had a conflict, so Scott's gonna cover this one.
Okay,
for us.
Scott.
Yes, staff prepared a bid number 1845 for pad mount and pole mount transformers were issued and sent to 5 vendors with 8 responses received. After reviewing all submissions, staff recommends awarding the bid to Brownstown Electric Supply Company in the amount of $1,043,142. Although Brownstown did not submit bids for the 2 transformer models, they provide the lowest overall cost in the remaining transformers and offered the most favorable lead times. If awarded, staff will issue a separate bid for the 2 transformers not included in Brownstown proposal. These transformers will be used to replenish depleting inventory levels. Operations has reviewed the minimum inventory requirements and increased the quantities to be maintained on hand to support the new developments and replacements of damaged and faulty equipment.
All right. Any questions?
Could I just ask?
Yes.
So we issued a bid for X items,
Yes.
and Brownstone submitted a bid, and we've used them before. I mean, I know they've been
yes.
around, they're a good company, but they didn't bid on the whole spec, correct?
Yes, well, they bid, but they took exception to two items, and they said no.
Was that because they didn't provide it, or they didn't?
The manufacturer, GE, does not make that particular type of transformer.
So by
you
them
will
not bidding that, and you said you had 8 responses?
Yes.
Are you still comparing apples to apples?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So if you look at the overall price of even what the other people bid for the two items off, there was a couple other companies that did the same thing. They bid no
Okay.
bid. So, I mean, it's overall, they still had the lowest price on the average and the lead times, which is really phenomenal.
And so this bid price plus the fact that we got a bid for the other two
Right.
will still come in within?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yes.
Great.
And I mean, I can tell you that, just a little history about transformers. Many of you all remember COVID. Once COVID hit, transformer manufacturers shut down. The plant board at that time, we had a yearly contract. Our yearly contract was cut, and we could no longer get transformers. So transformers stayed like that till around 2022, probably.
Were we sending them out to be rebuilt and some
And
things?
so that's
Yeah.
when the plant board had to go out and go the other avenue, where we would send our units that failed to go have them rebuilt. And we ended up having to buy a few units then to replenish some stock we had then. Around 2023, the plant board, once they started opening up the market a little bit, we did put out a bid, wasn't a yearly contract, a bid to fill some inventory levels that we were running low on to see what would happen. Of course, at that time, we got 2 or 3 bids is all we got. And I can tell you the prices then, what they are now, was so high that we weren't gonna buy anything. That's the reason why we stayed in the rebuilding section, because it's amazing, some of these prices are, back in 2023, some of these were like still 3 times higher than what they are here. So
Yeah.
it was, that was kind of going back to where, we were, luckily, the plant board just had enough inventory stock. We did look at other methods and not have to do, we did some cost saving. We were like, we can't afford to do that. It's not right. So we backed off on buying those in. So this last go around, the reason why you see 8 vendors now, about 2 years ago, all the transformer manufacturers have started bidding more things now.
Okay.
They used to be all, your bigger companies like your Dukes and your PGEs, they had no problem getting units. Everybody else, like municipals and co-ops, were absolutely, there was nobody would even bid them. So it's changed now, and around 2000, into 2004, we started getting notifications that everybody wants to start bidding transformers again, though they could. So the prices are a whole lot better than what, technically, based upon what we saw in 2023, we were talking about this when we put this out, we were expecting this to be another $1.5 million higher. So that just tells you what it's come down since 2023, so.
All right, any other questions? Not, I'll accept a motion.
I move we approve the bid award.
Second. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Scott. Next item up on the agenda, informational item. We're gonna have a discussion from staff and our folks at our partners at GDS to update us on the 2029 power supply RFP.
And, Mr. Chairman, just while the GDS folks are making their way to the stage, I'll just give a very brief background. Obviously, we've talked power supply quite a bit this evening, so no need to rehearse the entire history, but of course, the Frankfurt Plant Board is an all requirements customer of KYMEA. The decision was made to leave the all requirements group in 2029, so as of June 1st, 2029, FPB will need a new power supply. When that decision was made, staff reached out and engaged with GDS to kind of help us evaluate our options, develop the RFP, issue the RFP, and then help us evaluate the responses. So that's kind of brings us to where we are today. This is being proposed as an informational item, so there's no action anticipated at this time or expected, unless the board directs otherwise. So with that, I will hand it over to the GDS team and let them give you all the update.
Thank you. And we brought mood lighting for you as well.
That's great, yes.
And when you're ready for next, David.
Okay, perfect, yes, I was gonna ask that.
That's your man.
Thank you very much. Thank you, David, also. Thank you very much for having us. I'm Jack Madden, Senior Vice President with GDS Associates. I have with me Carly Smith and Ernesto Perez. We've been working on this process on your behalf. And next slide, David. I'll just quickly go over this. Travis hit some of this, but in the last 10 years or so, the Plant Board has been looking continuously, intermittently, I guess I would say, for the best power supply mix and portfolio to serve the customers of the Plant Board. After significant time with Kentucky Utilities, which at the time could not provide the flexibility that the Plant Board was looking for, along with other municipalities in Kentucky, the KYMEA was formed, and the Plant Board has been buying an all requirements contract from KYMEA. The current contract that they have, costs and flexibility, is not what the members of the Plant Board found suitable, and so a termination notice was given. It's a 5-year termination notice, and so June 1st, 2029, we will be buying from a different supplier. We put out an RFP. David? There we go. So we put out an RFP in October, and we are receiving proposals and beginning the discussions and evaluations in where those costs are. What we're going to do tonight is just talk about sort of the process and the methodology we are using to score the proposals that we have received. We did receive several proposals from different sorts of suppliers, and so we're going to cover those things. So the KYMEA contract, as I mentioned, is going to end at the end of May 2029. The Plant Board is still a member, still an all requirements member, still receiving all of their power from KYMEA, and as was mentioned earlier in the meeting, that includes some solar and all of the things that KYMEA brings to bear. So terminating that contract, with the exception of SEPA, means that FPB needs to replace all of its power supply going forward beginning June 1st, 2029. David. We issued an RFP back in October. I think we've been up here a couple of times. Well, once we've been here once maybe, or twice maybe, and once online. The proposals were put out in October. We received all those proposals. They are very complicated because we are looking for all requirements, and we're also looking for alternate proposals that are, solar supplies and any sort of non-conforming supply that the bidders would like to put in. And so we've been evaluating those things in order to put together what we believe is going to be the best package going forward, again, several years hence, which is a complication in the RFP. It's fairly atypical to put a proposal out for supply that you're wanting to come, 3, 4, 5 years in the future. Also, I think we've talked about Frankfurt is in a unique transmission situation, which also complicates things in that most of the country is in some sort of a regional transmission organization. Kentucky Utilities is not, and so there is the complication of what's called depancaking. Typically, you would have to buy transmit power over KU, and if you went to the RTO, then you would have to pay transmission there. There's a depancaking order that's being challenged, and so what the ultimate transmission cost is going to be is still in question. And so we're struggling with that as well in evaluating these proposals. I'll just quickly, David, talk about GDS, my company. GDS was formed in 1986. I didn't start there until 1988, so I've been with GDS almost my entire career. Started as an engineer and worked my way up. We have just over 200 employees, nine. I never know what to call offices anymore. With COVID and virtual working, we have hundreds of offices, I think, but we have 9 established offices and people who work all over the place. Carly lives in Washington, D.C., for instance, or Ernesto and I are both in the headquarters in Marietta. We found that the hybrid, just as an aside, we have found hybrid work in our business works great. We're able to get really, really good people, and, you know, if you make them move to Marietta and they don't want to move to Marietta, Georgia, then you limit yourself. We've been very pleased with that. We do power supply, we do markets work, we do transmission work, we do rates work, everything soup to nuts with regard to our clients, which tend to be small, relatively small utilities, cooperatives, municipals, folks like that. We do quite a bit of work in the state of Kentucky. We work for Owensboro, we work for Henderson. We've done some work for KMPA, which is Paducah and Princeton. We work for East Kentucky, and we work for Big Rivers. So a lot of the folks in Kentucky. David, just quickly talk about our role in this. We have been the RFP administrator, independent evaluator, so we come in without biases as to who the suppliers are. We don't have any history with suppliers with regard to service in a particular area. And we do this across the country for lots and lots of utilities. Our job is to provide best practice for independent evaluation so that there's not a question about whether there's favoritism or this and that. What we're looking at is reliability, cost, who can supply, and what will the supply look like. With that, Ernesto is going to move into the schedule.
Okay. Next slide, David. Okay, so as a reminder, on our RFP schedule here, Jack mentioned this earlier, the RFP was released in October. We gave suppliers a few months to respond. We accepted bids in January. We have gone through a preliminary screening process and have moved forward into an evaluation mode here as of late. We've met with leadership along the way, and as you'll see from our scoring methodology that we'll put up on the screen, we've come to some agreement on how we will weight the scoring of the proposals received and their key characteristics as part of this process to drive forward to a recommendation here as per the RFP schedule in June. Next slide, David. Okay, so stepping into the evaluation methodology, next slide. We'll move through a few slides here in a moment to point out some key details across these different categories of scoring, these criteria. The major takeaway from this slide, and we heard it tonight from the comments earlier, costs and reliability are a significant scoring criteria as part of this effort. We hear the community, we've heard leadership, we've created the structure whereby 80% of our scoring of the evaluation will be determined by those key factors. We'll detail those in a moment. We've also heard as part of this process that your partner, as part of the journey in the power supply costs that you receive, needs to be vetted, right? Financial strength, long-term ability to supply power at reliable costs. Those are key components that need to be factored in as well. And we've also heard that sustainability, clean energy, is an avenue that could help power supply costs, depending on market factors and how it fits into your portfolio. And so the ability for these suppliers to provide some solutions along that route will be factored into this as well. Next slide, David. Okay, so there's a lot of words here. We provided as the public material here so that you can see our process for this. The biggest takeaway from this slide is across those 4 categories of scoring, the criteria, we will have different degrees by which to assign points to the suppliers, the bids that were received in order to score them. So if I can highlight one key criteria for reliability and transmission, the points will differ depending on how complicated of a transmission arrangement there is associated with that proposal, and or the risk or exposure to increased costs because of that particular facet. So for each key criteria, we have different degrees, different levels that contribute to the point system that we'll provide when we make our recommendation. Next slide. I'll turn it over to Carly.
Yeah, so I may reiterate some of the things that Jack and Ernesto had said, but we wanted to give you an understanding of what actually goes into us scoring all of these different items. And so starting with reliability and transmission, like Jack said, you guys are in a unique transmission area, and some of the offers that we received may not be in this LGKU region. We can source from MISO, but that adds additional complications in terms of having to seek new transmission service requests, just a lengthier process, and also the risk of, potential increased costs with depancaking if that were to be overturned. Just some of those items are being considered and how we can reliably serve your power supply needs. We want to make sure that you're getting the power that you need, especially during those critical times, and what that may look like, and it could be easier to incorporate while on the LGKU if these physical resources are in LGKU versus MISO. It's not impossible to serve from MISO, there's a few additional steps. So we're taking all of that into consideration with the scoring. We also want to point out that we are trying to point to some physical resources, and so we understand where they're serving us from. And so that's all being taken into account under this transmission and reliability section. So David, along with the transmission and reliability, we also have cost, which is another big component of our scoring. And so we took this bid price at face value. It's a snapshot in time that they had offered us, but we want to make it known that, hey, we are looking 3 years down the line. What is some uncertainty that we may see as we get closer to that 2029 date and as part of the contract term? So we have the bid price, we compare them against each other, but we also look at 2 other cost sensitivities, transmission and high gas prices. So under transmission, we are analyzing, hey, what costs will we see potentially having to reserve, point-to-point pathways into MISO and to designated resources, and how we project out transmission rates for both entities within the Kentucky region and also in an organized market. How that might change over the 5 years that you were locked into this, or 3 to 5 years as you were locked into this term and contract. We also looked at a high gas cost. So we projected out sustained high natural gas like we had seen in 2022, right? It impacts wholesale market costs. It impacts any sort of procured market-based product, as well as fuel. And so we wanted to see what the sensitivities were and how well hedged you were under these contracts in those high market scenarios. We're looking from now until the end of the terms that they had quoted, just to get an all-in price to really understand what you may be at risk of paying. So David, the next slide. So with that, we got these bids, and we are also trying to incorporate what their flexibility is. In terms of sustainability, right? We've heard it a lot where the city has initiatives, the plant board then has initiatives as well to maybe incorporate some sustainability down the line. we want to see what their flexibility looks like. And so these bids, some may offer that ability, some may not. We're trying to score based on their willingness to think about it down the line, to help us out, help Frankfurt procure potential resources, renewable resources down the line, if it's not currently part of their offer. And if it is, what does that look like? How does it impact the price? Things like that. We just want to make sure that you guys have the opportunity to incorporate that if you'd like, and understanding their willingness to do so. And so, David, next slide. So lastly, that gets into partnership compatibility. So we understand that this is we're looking at 3 years before the contract term. We want someone who is going to understand the needs of Frankfurt moving into contract negotiations, but also is willing to be open and communicative and transparent in that process, as well as during the length of the contract term. And so we're looking for, one, entities that can do business in Kentucky, right? We want to make sure that's not a roadblock, but also, hey, do they have the rights to the specific resources they're quoting? What is their credit status so we don't run into a risk of like bankruptcy down the line? We want to make sure that they are reliable and can serve our needs, as well as communicate with us throughout that process, right? We don't want to just sign the contract and then they ignore us for the rest of the time. We want to make sure that they're looking to help serve you guys in more ways than one. And so we are trying to just try and develop, hey, what are we feeling as we're getting through this process? Have they been having conversations with all of us so we understand their process and the things that they can do for us. And so this is just kind of an all-encompassing partnership scoring methodology. There's no real like certainty that we have until we go through all of this, right? So we need to know if they're a good partner for us moving down the line. So I think it's back to you.
Yeah, David, next slide. Okay. So with that, we'd just like to cover what we've talked about today. We've given some context to Frankfurt Plant Board's historical power supply evolution. We've discussed an overview of the RFP process for which we are coming to a recommendation here over the next month or two. And we wanted to impart the vision for the scoring methodology that's at play here. So next steps will involve over the next 4 weeks final RFP scoring to then come back and make a recommendation for who to begin contract negotiations with.
Only one comment I put in the beginning. First, I really personally appreciate GDS coming to help us. We're a credible firm, done so much, very good job for the municipal in the past, particularly in Kentucky too. When we started, couple concerns. Number one is we want the door open as wide as we can. Welcome any opportunity potentially. So we didn't set any limitation. Anyone have any resource, have interest, please submit it. Yeah. We don't put a gate door, make sure it's open as wide as we can. The second part, we are looking to definitely is potentially long-term low cost to our customer. That's very important to the board. I heard so many directions from you. Number three definitely is some kind of sustainability. Potentially, if that's a long-term value to us, we definitely were looking for. Just like Lee mentioned, the flexibility. Potentially, if the board in the future, all this community want to have a higher renewable or any portion of that possibility, then the door continue open for us. Then we can evaluate that too. So, but personally, I really appreciate the team did a great job. They didn't put a long conversation here, but I promise you, we spend far more hour, me and Travis, Hans, and David, with us, and I know they take things very, very seriously. They want to talk to all the potential bidder even before they submit any bid. Make sure the invitation is there. I'm happy for the result. The reason is right now, just like we had a discussion earlier, it is in the power supply world, power supply market, because of the data center of anything else. It's not a real thing that we can think about 5 years ago. I would say it's almost like a storm there. If you have to go in there right now, have to be really ready. The storm means the reliability, also means the cost is far higher than what we expect before. So, but I appreciate GDS has expertise and spent so much time really help us. Done a very great job.
Do any of the members have any questions? I have one, and I don't know, you mentioned that July will be recommending, someone to begin contract negotiations with. How long do we envision contract negotiations time? We've got plenty of lead time, but I'm sure to hammer all that out, it's gonna take some time.
So I'll answer that by saying our preference is to have a short period for contract negotiations. We have received sample draft contracts, so one of our key next steps is to redline those so that for the recommendation, we can quickly move forward with those discussions.
Okay. And so do you all envision being back before us next month or the month after?
We can be ready for that. I think that's up to Gary.
Good. All right. Well, we're doing a lot of budget stuff next month, so it might be too much. So yeah. But I just want to reiterate what Gary said. Very appreciative of the work you all have done for us. Very professional. Of course, we had a in a closed session. We had a much more detailed presentation, but. A lot of this, with this proposal, a lot of this is confidential, proprietary information that's been given to us that we cannot discuss openly, unfortunately. But I feel very, very confident that from what you all have told us, both here today and in other points we've had this conversation, you really do have our best interest at heart, and you are trying to do everything that we would like you to do. And the market is going to be what the market is going to be, and the costs are going to be what the costs are going to be. And unfortunately, like Gary said, we're in a bit of a stormy period right now, and we'll see how that shows itself out in the next few years or so. So, without one other question, John.
I was just going to say, I'm like everybody else. I appreciate the work you all have done, and obviously your reputation in the industry. And I think what was important about tonight and this information, which is available, it's public information, is the process we're using, because this is, for this community, this is a big deal in terms of who we pick for 2029 and beyond. And I think to show that there's a process that you're helping us with to pick the best provider for this community, and that it's above board and it's open and there's a defined criteria, and that at the end of it, we will have gone through all the steps to make sure we pick the very best firm based on everything you all have talked about. And it's things that are very important. And like I said, I think it was everybody wanted the community to know, this board to know, and for the whole community to know how we were going about this. Mm-hmm. And I know everybody does appreciate what you all have done.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome, and thank you all.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all very much. We'll see more of you in the future, I'm sure. So, thank you. All right. Next item up on the agenda is possibility of closed session. Mr. Cubat.
Yes. I'd like to request permission for the chair to call a closed session pursuant to KRS 61.8101N to select a successful bidder for award of a local contract, and pursuant to KRS 61.8101C to discuss pending litigation regarding a customer matter, administrative matter, a contract matter, and pursuant to KRS 61.8101B for deliberation on the sale of real property by a public agency when public publicity would likely affect the value of the specific piece of property.
We have a second? Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're going into closed session. Mr. Cubine?
I make a motion to come out of closed session, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're back in open session. Mr. Cubine, any action from the closed session?
The board took no action, requiring any action.
All right, then I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Motion made and seconded for adjournment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll see you guys at the budget meeting on June.